Well, hello there, and welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. We've got lots to talk about. If you are new to the show, then you know we always start things off with some news from Hollywood. We'll get into the quick hits, which are, smaller news bites that don't necessarily need a ton of time to talk about. And then from there, we get into the DC news from the day, as well as getting into the main topic of the day, which today happens to be our conversation around Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is set to get a video game at DC, but Warner Brothers games seems to be really behind, and they've spent a ton of money. Something is still not clicking. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about what is going on, why it is where it is, and maybe are we gonna get that game? We'll get into that and so much more. Of course, we have to talk about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, as well as the latest from the Oscars race, and we're gonna get into some Marvel news along the way as well. So all the things that are going on in the world of Hollywood. So do that to do that and so much more. Of course, as always, we start with the news, so let's do that right now.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey.
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Corbin.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
Well, welcome on in to another episode of DC. I already did that. This is the news. We're gonna get into it. With me today, as always, I've got John. How are you doing today? You are so muted. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to be courteous because I was blowing my nose. I was moving around.
It's all good. It's all good. You just gotta unmute after you do all those things.
No, I know. But people keep fucking texting me. I'm like, hey, no, I'm doing something. Get the fuck out of here. So I'm doing good. Ready for a very eventful weekend. And by eventful, I mean just watching some movies and shit.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot to get into. So as always, we do that with the news. So let's kick things off by talking about a little bit of the Oscars race, right? So as you guys know, there's a lot going on in the world of awards out in Hollywood. Of course, you have the AFI awards, you have the DGA, the PGA, all the the Critics' Choice Awards, the SAG Awards. There's of course also the biggest ones of them all, the Oscars. So the Oscars are on their way. I mean, they're currently voting on the nominees. So as of right now, there's a few records that have been broken, some historic milestones. I just found this article, and I wanted to kind of quickly go through a few of these things because it's groundbreaking stuff. Like there's some interesting things happening from a statistics standpoint at this year's Oscars. Some things that we have never seen before, some things we haven't seen, for a long time. And then from there, we'll get into other topics. But I thought this was a good way to start things off while you guys trickle into the live chat, of course, if you are watching us live. And if you are just a fan of the movies, the Oscars are like maybe not necessarily the Super Bowl of the movies of the year, but they're certainly like a big event, right? So let's get into it, shall we? So this article does a nice job of breaking it down into these categories, and we can kind of quickly talk about each one and then move on. But to start off, Cynthia Erivo is holding space for Black British women by scoring 2 Best Actress nods. That's something that we don't really see very often. She's going for her EGOT. She's already got an Emmy. She's already got a Grammy. She's already got a Tony. She just needs the Oscar, just the O. That's the only thing that's missing. John, are you surprised by this? I mean, the fact that this is obviously an occasion that we don't see very often. She's incredibly talented. She's going for an EGOT. That would make her one of the very few actors or actresses out there to have one. I think most recently was it Jennifer Hudson got her EGOT a few years ago. She would become basically the next one since. What are your thoughts on again, Wicked and being still a great movie if you are able to see in a movie theater, but also Cynthia Erivo and what she's done for the movie and obviously for Black women in the industry as well?
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing. I think the EGOT status could be good for her. That would be really, really good. Do I think she gave the best actress performance of the year? No. I do think Demi Moore gave a better performance in The Substance, but that's just me. But Cynthia Erivo did do a very good job, and I would not be upset if she won. But I think that's really great. I think if she gets the EGOT, awesome. If she doesn't, well, maybe she could try again for Wicked for Good. I still hate saying that fucking title. Wicked Part 2. I'm calling it Wicked Part 2.
It sounds like a charity event. Wicked for Good. I'm like, they should do a PSA with that. Anyway, Diane Warren. This will be her 16th time getting nominated.
She's been nominated
for
like
the original
every
song
year for the past like 20 years, and it's like, bro, it's like, calm down.
I mean, just think about. Here's why this matters, right? Like they say it in the article here. With the new nomination, now Diane Warren continues to hold a record for the most nominated Best Original Song Artist, with a tally equaled or surpassed only by 3 other songwriters, including Paul Francis Webster with 16, Johnny Mercer with 18, and Sammy Kahn with 26. So it would take her 16, attempts at it to maybe win one. I mean, do you think she's gonna win one this year?
I hope not, because I've listened to the song. It's not very good.
It's from the 688. The Journey is the name of the song. It's on Netflix, the movie, if you want to check it out.
I mean, the movie, from what I've heard, is not very good. I listened to the song. It's like, okay. It's just like, why? It's just like, she just pumps out like generic crap, like songs that for some reason get nominated. So it's just like, why are we here? It's either like all the songs she's nominated for are like so like bland and not that great. So it's like, why keep nominating her? I don't know. I just feel like it's like, I remember my dad was talking about this like soap opera actress that got nominated like 30 times, but like won like once. It's like, clearly you pissed off somebody. And so I don't know. She got nominated for the fucking Flamin' Hot movie. Like, really?
Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. I mean, look, it seems to be like maybe the category doesn't have a ton of competition, so she's an easy, pick for it, I suppose you would want to call it that, if you want to call it that. By the way, we've got all of you guys in the chat already. We've got Lenny in there. We've got Caleb, Terrence, Hosea, Enterprising, Steven, Fiona, as well as I already said Caleb. I mean, and even more. But if you guys are in the watching live, then get in the chat. Get engaged, get involved. Hit that like button while you're at it. Lenny's saying she's just prolific. That's why. You know what? Fair enough. Caleb said that Pearl Harbor sucks, but the song was a banger. Well, there you go.
What are you going to say to that, Dan, Mr. Bayhem himself?
I appreciate the Bayhem. I always appreciate the Bayhem. Anyway, all 5 Best Actress nominees are also nominated in the Best Picture contenders this year, meaning that basically all of the actresses that are nominated in the Best Actress category, their movies are all nominated for Best Picture. Does that tell you anything about the chances of the movies, like of any of the of course any of the nominees? Obviously, Emilia Perez, a bit more controversial, even though it led with 13 categories that it was nominated in. But you have Demi Moore, The Substance, for example. You also have Cynthia Erivo. We just talked about her. Wicked is also nominated for Best Picture, and then Fernanda Torres, of course, is also in the running. And so you've got a talented field here, John. Do you feel like any of those really stand out above the rest?
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I can only speak for Demi Moore and Cynthia Erivo, and both of them are really good. But I've heard, the fuck does that mean? Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll get my machete out again if I need to. All right. But I think I can only speak for Cynthia Erivo and Demi Moore. I think Demi Moore gave the better performance, but I've heard great things about Mikey Madison. I haven't heard a ton about Torres's performance in I'm Still Here. That's like one of that and Nickel Boys are the ones I haven't heard a ton about. Yeah.
I mean, especially in light of all the controversy for Emilia Perez, I feel like Fernanda Torres might be like the new lead potentially. Like she might surprise us all. We know Demi Moore obviously won the Golden Globe, so if that is a predictor of anything, then I suppose that would put her in the lead. But yeah, you could still check out some of those movies if you haven't, like you said, John, you haven't seen some of them yet. But there's like Oscars week happening at Cinemark soon. I think AMC is doing something similar. Regal probably has a similar thing. So we can all go watch these movies in a movie theater. I think we'll have the opportunity if you really, really wanted to. I think Liz is already, working on that, speaking of which. But let's talk about this. John, it's rare. It's rare that we see this, right? A new class of Best Director nominees, aka all of the directors in the Best Director category this year are first-time nominees in that category. The last time that happened, where an entirely new class of nominees competed for the award, was in 1998, when James Cameron, Peter Cattaneo, Gus Van Sant, Curtis Hanson, Adam Egion, and Terrence Malick, as well as Peter Weir, were honored. Now, of course, you've probably heard of James Cameron. He's the biggest name out of them all. I don't remember if he did win for Titanic or not, but that was the year when Titanic... I think Titanic still holds a bunch of records for like the amount of nominees and all that, right? So Cameron did win the Oscar that year, it says in the article. So yeah, I mean, it's been that long. It's been almost 3 decades since we've had this happen. I mean, it's so rare, John. What are your thoughts about this year's directors? Do you think any of them could be as prolific maybe down the road as James Cameron went on to become since Titanic?
I would hope so. I mean, that's really cool that they're giving first-time directors a chance, one of them being a woman, so that's really great. I'm surprised because I could have sworn James Mangold got nominated. I mean, the man has been nominated, like...
He is.
I mean, something before this.
Oh,
I could have
you
sworn
mean
he got
like
nominated for Ford versus Ferrari.
Did he though? I don't know. I think he might have gotten snubbed that year. It might have been one of those like where he got the Golden Globe, but not
all of them are. Well, if that's the case, well, then they're not first-time nominees because then James Mangold got nominated before.
No. Yeah. Like this is the Oscars specifically. I'm saying like I think he might have gotten nominated at the Golden Globes, but not the Oscars. You know what I mean? Like that happens sometimes, right? So,
I know. I just could have sworn he got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. By the way, Antonio Baker in the chat, Colin Farrell became the 3rd actor to win a Critics' Choice Award for superhero movie. All 3 DC movies, essentially. The 2 Jokers, obviously, we had Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix, and now Colin Farrell. So yeah, for all characters from Gotham City. Congratulations again to Colin Farrell, continuing to win more and more awards. But yeah, I mean, I don't think James Mangold was nominated before. I don't believe so. I mean, yes, you would imagine he should be. He should have been nominated for Logan, but I mean, clearly the Academy still didn't acknowledge genre films as much.
Figure drawing, saying Alfred Hitchcock never won an Oscar for Best Director.
He got an honorary one, right?
Yes, he got an honorary one, but he was nominated 5 times over the course of 20 years. First getting nominated for Rebecca, which won Best Picture, but he did not win the Oscar for Best Director.
It is honestly just...
Then he was nominated for Lifeboat, Spellbound, Rear Window, and Psycho. All lost.
Yep. I think it's a tragedy that he didn't win like a competitive Oscar. And I really thought that Christopher Nolan was headed down the same like avenue. I'm glad that Christopher Nolan got his, and I'm sure now that he's got the first, hopefully he'll get more. By the way, The Banshees of Inisherin, amazing movie. Didn't Colin Farrell win for that? I know he was nominated for that. I think Barry Keoghan won for that, if I remember. Let us know in the chat, guys. I forget who, because I know that movie picked up a few awards. I think it's now a couple of years ago. But anyway, yeah. Alfred Hitchcock should have won a competitive Oscar. That dude deserves it. It's like one of those things where Einstein should probably have 5 more Nobel Prizes than he does, because
think about it like this:
created everything modern physics.
Led Zeppelin never won a Grammy.
It doesn't make any sense. This is the thing about award shows, right? Like it's so tricky.
You have to
because
suck the right dick. I hate to be crass. I know I like to be crass usually, but this time it's just you have to bend to the right person and kiss their ass. That's all it is you kiss the right ass, you do the right thing. I mean, fucking Harvey Weinstein essentially, out of the many horrible things he did, essentially strong-armed the Academy to have Shakespeare in Love win Best Picture over Saving Private Ryan, even though
that's terrible. I can't. That's
yeah,
one of
he
those like
pretty much-
all-time confusing
Okay,
moments.
yeah, Led Zeppelin stole a lot of music, but they also like fucking made it better. So like whatever. Like literally every industry involving art
I mean, they
is
sampled
stolen.
music.
It's like nothing's
It's-
original.
yeah.
Like come on. But I think yeah, because it was like he was saying like, oh, all the great parts are in the first 15 minutes on the Normandy battle, and that's it. That's the movie. The rest of it sucks.
That's not
That's
true
all
at
it is.
all.
I
That's
know
not
that. I
true at
know. We
all.
all know that, but that's what
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein was saying, so he could get Shakespeare in Love to win. It was like,
Are you
he's a
kidding?
fucking dickhead. Why are you
Dude,
shocked?
I cry at that movie every time. Like the end scene where he's not Matt Damon, but the old Matt Damon character is like, he asks his wife like, "Have I lived a good life?" Like,
I think I thought it was "Am I a Good Man?"
Am I a good man? Yes. Am I a good man? Like, it's like because he's like, did I earn the sacrifice that all those men made so that I could be standing here today with my family? It's really poignant. I think it's one of those movies where you like realize the scale at which some of the lives of some people or like just the events of that movie take place. Right? It's like it's a generational change because all those men died so that he could live and then have a family and then have grandkids, and none of that would have been possible if those men didn't sacrifice themselves. It's kind of like watching Interstellar. What the reason why we cry every time Iron
Giant.
Matthew McConaughey is watching his kids grow up and he's just
Tears.
watching it back, and yes, exactly. Iron
Giant.
That's the magic of the movies.
Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan fucking brings me to tears every time. Terminator 2, I don't like full on cry, but that's a teary ending. The Fly has made me cry many a times. A lot of stuff has made me cry. I'm not ashamed. Fucking like 3 movies last year fucking made me cry. It was Quiet Place Day 1, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I think one other one made me cry. It's crazy, very emotional time for films, I guess.
I mean, I was tearing up watching Superman, the Christopher Reeve story just a few days ago. And yeah, I mean that is a very emotionally affecting documentary. We're gonna actually get into that a little bit later because we have some news regarding that. It actually won an award recently. So, Wicked and Emilia Perez, of course, sing and dance their way to Oscar history. Wicked and Emilia Perez's Best Picture nominations mark the first time that 2 musicals have been nominated in the category since 1968, which was the era of the musicals. Like the 60s were the golden age for the musicals. The last time more than one musical was nominated for the Oscars top prize, the nominees were Oliver and Funny Girl. So it's also this year also marks the second time that two musicals earned 10 or more nominations each in the same year. So of course we know Wicked got 10 and Emilia Perez got 13. The last time 2 musicals got at least 10 apiece, like Wicked and Emilia Perez, was back in '65 when Mary Poppins was nominated for 13 categories, while My Fair Lady got 12 nominees. That's insane, dude. 1965 was how long ago? Like 60 years ago or more? It's 80 years ago. No.
Yeah.
60 years ago.
Yeah, it was in the 60s.
60 years ago. Holy crap.
80. No, you're right. 80 years ago in the 60s. That's what it was.
No, 1965. Do the math. 60 years.
I'm tired, guys.
It's 60 years. It's been 60 years since this has happened. It's okay. It's
tired,
okay. I did the
boss.
math for you. Lenny was correcting me. I did the math for you. That's okay.
I was like, wait, no, it is 80. Then I'm like, then we would be in 2047.
I know exactly. Exactly.
I'm dumb. It's okay.
Well, I corrected my math there. Sorry, Lenny. I caught myself there. That would have been
Well, if
1945.
musicals are going down the way of Emilia Perez and Joker Folia do, we might not be getting that many musicals. Whoops, daisies.
What, dude? You still have movies like Wicked happening at the same time. I'm sure we'll get good musicals.
I'm sure we'll be fine.
The Steven Spielberg West Side Story was also a great musical. So, yeah, dude, I know, Antonio, that movie is intense. Like watching that in a movie theater, like holy shit. Anyway, Succession Brothers, the Roy brothers, that is, they're facing off as first-time nominees this year. Get this, of course, Kieran Culkin is nominated as a Best Supporting Actor for A Real Pain. And then his TV brother, Jeremy Strong, is nominated for The Apprentice, both in the same category. John, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think one is, a clear, first choice over the other? Or do you think neither of them really win?
I don't know, because I've heard like a lot of great things about both. I think I've heard a little bit more like good reviews in regards to Jeremy Strong. I've heard like he was like definitely like a surprise, like great performance. Well, yeah, that's a
I
given.
don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Yeah.
So that's what this feels like. Oh, I'm gone. Yeah, and then they ruined that for nostalgia bait movie.
I know.
Thanks, Disney.
Oh god, that's the one part of that movie that I really hate. Anyway, the Deadpool and Wolverine. That is.
Yeah. I've heard a little bit more about Jeremy Strong, so I'm willing to bet it's probably going to go to him. But I've heard great things about Kieran Culkin as well.
Yeah, I think for me, they're probably neither of them are front runners. So, but you never know. One of them could sweep in and win. I mean, obviously, great performances all the way around. A Real Pain, I've only seen parts of at this point, but Kieran Culkin looks like he did a great job in it. And all the buzz is positive around that movie. I'm waiting to see the whole thing. Fiona wants to watch that, so we'll get into that. It's a nice story. Chris Sanders, by the way, ties an animation record. He directed The Wild Robot, and now he's tied for the record for most nominations for animated feature film. This is his fourth time being nominated in the category. Of course, previously he was nominated for 2012's The Croods, in 2010 for How to Train Your Dragon, in 2002 for Lilo and Stitch. He's now tied with, and look at the company this guy keeps: Hayao Miyazaki and Pixar's Pete Docter. Dude, Pete Docter has directed some of the most iconic Pixar movies of all time. Let me give you a list. Obviously, Miyazaki, we know who Hayao Miyazaki is. Like, he is one of,
He won last year.
He won last year. He's one of the biggest, most prolific animators.
It would be
of all
last
time.
year for 2 years ago's movie. Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
right.
Boy and the Heron, great movie.
Dude, Pete Docter, by the way, this is the company that the Wild Robot director Chris Sanders is keeping now. Pete Docter did Up, he did Soul, he did Inside Out, he did Monsters Inc., he did Wall-E. He also worked on the other Toy Story movies. He's obviously been a producer on a lot of them. But like, you look at the movies he's directed. I mean, Pete Docter is one of the biggest names they have at Pixar, and of course, Hayao Miyazaki is one of the biggest names in animation. Period. So that's the company that Chris Sanders is now in. Like, can you imagine? That's like, if you were like, okay, I'm in the same company as Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Michael Jordan. That's what we're talking about here. So I do hope that Chris Sanders finally gets it, gets his award. But continuing on, of course, Emilia Perez, despite the controversy, continues to impress because they do have 13 nods. And of course, Carla Sofia Gasson, despite all the controversy, is the first openly transgender actress to receive a nomination. So we'll see. But it also, guess what? Emilia Perez now takes France's record number of nominees for Best International Feature to 39, which is ahead of Italy, and they have 30. Then, of course, beyond that, you've got a lot of the other countries. So, of course, Carla herself is Spanish-born, but the movie is considered a French film. So, Emilia Perez, is impressive in more than several ways. Of course, the number of nominees, but also what it's doing for the French film industry. Here's the other thing: double documentaries. Now we have Eric Nayari. He's only the fifth person to be nominated for both documentary feature film and documentary short, which is great. I'm not gonna go into the details of that because it's a smaller award. I don't even know if you guys have seen those movies. Non-English language films are making moves, and this is the trend. Like, each year for the last 5 or 6 years, it's like every year we see non-English language films have a bigger and bigger presence.
Yeah,
John.
There's pros and cons.
Bong Joon-ho, he's making Mickey 17 because of the success of Parasite. Life is Beautiful, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They used to be more like, okay, so a one big international feature or non-English language feature would be the sensation every once in a while. But now it seems like they're just on equal footing almost with English language movies, which is great because the Academy is expanding the scope of what they cover and honor which I appreciate.
Yeah, I think that's good, but the stigma I have with it is I think it should be a it should be like a pick or choose situation. If a foreign language film gets nominated for best picture, it should be cut out of the running for best international, because it's not fair. Because here's the thing. Because the thing is, if it gets nominated for best picture, then now it gets nominated for best. We know what's going to win best international now, because it gets nominated for best picture. Now since there's two in best international and best picture, now it's like, okay, which one is going to win? But we know which one of those two is going to win, because it went above and beyond to get nominated for best picture. I feel like that's so unfair for all these best international ones, where like only one country, or like one movie per country can be submitted. And so they don't have so if you have that strict of a rule, then why are you having it so that, this one is going to get nominated for best picture? Well, obviously that one's going to win because it got nominated for best international. Like, that's not fair. Like, when Parasite won, cool. If they know what's going to win, it should not have been nominated for best international.
Well,
if the fact that it won as well is an extra stick in the knife in the wound, because
I hear you, but the implication that they know it's going to win obviously is, nobody knows what the results of the votes until we get to the show, but the idea, I understand that the concept of if you're nominated for best picture, then you shouldn't be nominated best international. I get it. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say that they should, if you're going to really, because they're going in this direction, clearly the Oscars want to be known for not just English language features anymore. They want to address and honor movies of all different languages. But if you're going to go that far, then eliminate the best international feature completely and just do best picture. I mean, you have 10 slots. Most categories have only 5 slots for nominations. You have 10 slots. They expanded the category after, was it 2008, 2009? When people were like, well, why did The Dark Knight and among a couple of other movies in the years prior didn't get nominated for best picture? They were like, clearly they need to, be nominating these. So you have 10 slots. That's enough. I feel like let's just merge the two awards together. If you're going to really make this a situation where non-English language movies can qualify for best picture, because then what it looks like is the best international feature looks like, it's a great international feature, but it's really not the best picture of the year. It's like the junior award. I'm like, just merge the two things together, right?
Yeah.
The same argument the same argument for the reason with some of the best Pixar movies kept getting snubbed for best picture until they created the best animated feature.
Ironically, the first one to actually win was not a Disney movie.
Right, but I'm just saying, one of the reasons, Pixar movies are some of the best movies ever made. Some of the best movies the year that they come out.
Any Disney movie, not really Disney nowadays, but
the best animated feature was created so that they can give those movies recognition while not nominating them in best picture. It was like an excuse. So I'm like, you might as well eliminate best animated feature, eliminate not the best international feature, and just be best picture and make it even more inclusive than it is now, because it just seems like, okay, so if you don't qualify for that, then you can walk away with the best animated or the best international feature, but you weren't quite good enough for the best picture. So I don't know. I'm just saying, it's Antonio seems to agree with our take, but and by the way, Antonio, as I mentioned to you in the chat, Emilia Perez is the name of the movie and the character that it's based or focused on, but it's not the name of the actress. The actress name, her name is Carla Sofia Gasson. Now, of course, speaking of Emilia Perez, the director, Jacques Audiard, is nominated for both directing and original song for Emilia Perez. He's only the third person to earn a nod in both of those categories. A pretty obscure stat, but he's the first one to do so in the same year and for the same film. He's credited for co-writing the lyrics for El Mal, which is one of the songs in the movie. Previously, Leo McCarey was nominated for directing in 1937, 1944, and 1945, an original song in 1957, but not in the same year. So, of course, Spike Jonze was scored a directing nod in 1999, and original score nod in 2013. So this is quite unique that the director of the movie also is nominated in the original song. It's so rare, it's never happened before, and anytime in the past it's happened, that person was nominated in separate years for each of those categories. So again, Emilia Perez, making even more history. So now the last one here, the last item in this article is animation makes gains with flow. Now flow, it follows a cat who finds refuge on a boat populated by various species after its home is devastated by a great flood and must team up with them despite their differences. It became the third animated film to be nominated for international feature film. That's interesting, right? We haven't seen that like really before or very often actually, because Waltz with Bashir and Flea were previously nominated in 2008 and 2021 respectively. So in the animated movie category, it's directed by Gins Zilbalodis. He's also the second animated film to be nominated in both the animated feature film and the international feature film categories. So yeah, I mean, hey, that's Flow. Isn't it also like not one of those like it's not made by big animation studios? It's almost like an indie animation. I forget like who's behind the movie. So it's making history in multiple ways. I mean, have you seen it? Are you interested?
I have not seen it, but I've heard great things about it. I've heard it's amazing. This is like this is one I've heard where it's like, oh, it's kind of a darling a little bit. It's a tough year for anime because usually it's like, oh, Disney or Pixar will automatically win, and this is one of the few cases where I wouldn't mind if like a Disney Pixar movie won, because Inside Out 2 was fantastic. But I wouldn't mind any of these seeing. Like, I prefer Wild Robot. I thought that was the better movie. Yeah. But yeah, I could see Wild Robot winning. I could see Flow winning. I could even see. I don't think Wallace and Gromit would win. I think that's the least likely because they already won Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So, but I have heard Flow is fantastic.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it. I've seen the trailers for it. It looks amazing. I love the character design. It looks fantastic. I want to see the movie whenever it does come out. But hey, you know what? That's the end of the Oscar talk. So let's move on to our next topic in the news, which actually is more of a review. Because John, we're not doing an MCU weekly today, but we do have to talk about this amazing, not just amazing, but really charming Spider-Man TV show.
Amazing, spectacular,
spectacular.
Maybe even the ultimate.
Maybe, yeah. There you go. Well, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man dropped this week, episodes 3 through 5. So the first 2 episodes dropped a week ago. Episodes 3 through 5, so 3, 4, and 5 dropped this week. Now episodes 6, 7, and 8 drop next week, and then 9 and 10 the following week. So they're dropping them in like these little batches. But you saw them all, and tell us what you thought about them. Of course, now you're pretty much halfway through the show of its 10 episodes. It's already renewed for a second season, potentially for a third one as well. Or I think the third season might have already been greenlit. So this show is not going anywhere anytime soon. What are your thoughts on episodes 3, 4, and 5?
I think it's still hitting its charts. It's still like a little clunky to me. I don't think it's a perfect show. I don't think it's like the animation's still awkward. Some pacing issues here and there. But for the most part, it's still a good show. I don't know if it's like the best, but it's, I think it's a very good show. So it's just like continually proving the haters wrong, guys. I said it was good before anybody else did. Just saying. But I really liked.
Figured Ron calling you out. He's like, "Oh, John watched it." Of course, John's been watching it. He's liking the show.
Yeah, I mean, John, I said the trailer was good when nobody else said the trailer was good. So
exactly.
So I like it. Okay, I think it's So the first of the 3 is mainly about Peter, but it's
episode 3. You're talking episode 3 right now.
Episode 3 right now. So it's mainly about Peter and Norman's relationship and like how they how their partnership will benefit from one another, and like kind of like the starting point of like their relationship and how that will continue, as well as his internship, as well as you know, as well as like, there's the like a villain in the background kind of thing. So that's really good. I liked all that stuff. I really like Coleman Domingo's version of Norman Osborn. I think he's really, really good. He definitely has more of a charismatic air to him than someone like Willem Dafoe. Now I don't remember every Norman Osborn in like animation and all that. So from what I know, I think that this Norman Osborn's really good, and I think Domingo does a really good job. I like how like weirdly how much he kind of fanboys over Spider-Man in later episodes a little bit. It's like I know he's a villain, I know he becomes Green Goblin, but it's like kind of weirdly cute that he like does that. So I liked that. And then the episode 3 was the start of Lonnie Lincoln's kind of downfall a little bit. His brother gets involved in a gang, and the head of the gang is like, hey, we have your brother, he's one of us now. And Lonnie's like, fine, I volunteer as tribute, essentially, me for him. So his brother is free to leave, and Lonnie has to become part of this gang. And that's kind of starting off like where he will eventually go, obviously. So we have all that, but that's not for later on. So it's mainly the episode 3 is like about like the start of like, okay, what the start of Peter and Norman's relationship, the start of Lonnie, and the start of like the major villain in the background, who turns out to be Doc Ock, who is selling his like amazing equipment to villains, kind of what it was in the Spider-Man video game, like later on in the second half, Marvel Spider-Man. But it's like instead of selling it, he just gives them, and he promises them like better stuff. So he's played by Hugh Dancy. He does a very good job. I like forgot. I'm like, who is this guy supposed to be? Because I'm like, I know he was famous because we just did a story on it. So I'm like, who is this guy again? And I look like, oh yeah, Hugh Dancy. I didn't even fucking recognize him. So he's really good. Yeah, I mean, I don't really give a fuck if he's black or not. He's good, so I don't really care. But then the next episode was, we see so obviously Peter agrees to Norman Osborn because Spider-Man, he's like, I got to do the whole lone wolf thing, I got to be my own thing, but then he's like, I don't want to like endanger people. I really liked that. Very Peter Parker thing to do. So he's like, okay, we can join forces. Then we go through like Norman Osborn like workshopping all these different spider outfits, like how Hornet is one, and one kind of looks proud. That one, the one that I forget what they have certain names, because there was, I think it was during Civil War, like the actual Civil War, where it was like, he couldn't, or no, it might not have been Civil War. I think somebody in the comments will know, but it was like there was a point where like Spider-Man was like being like was wanted by the cops, so Peter had to like be different heroes, because it's like, oh, I'm not Spider-Man, I'm being different heroes. So he's like, Hornet was one, he had like wings, and then he had the gliding thing, that black outfit. So they were like testing all these different outfits, nice Easter eggs, whatnot. And until they finally, settled on the Future Foundation suit. But during this time, so the whole push is like the Sokovia Accords are being like majorly pushed. They go into proper action. You have to get registered, all that. So Norman is like, okay, let's like be New York's one protector, since it's not being protected right now because of all this shit that's going down. So it's like, okay, so we have all that. So that's definitely a very interesting tidbit. I kind of liked that, going through all the different outfits and stuff like that.
Again, ties into a parallel story to the MCU. So you have all the similar key events, except they're slightly different. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And then this actually utilizes Matt Gargan. Unlike, the fucking movies, you got Michael Mando, you got Nacho from Better Call Saul, and you don't fucking use him. Unfortunately, they didn't get Michael Mando to come back to do this, but they're actually utilizing Matt Gargan, where he's a head of a gang called the Scorpions, and that's where this, kind of we there's like the 110th gang, which is the gang that Lonnie's a part of. That's where this is from, and they're like butting heads, and they're going into like enemy territory. Big Donovan sets it up so that Lonnie is seen by the Scorpions, and like Matt Gargan was apparently like a military guy who could like find anybody, so like now he knows your face, so you gotta stick with us kind of shit, while his like social life is deteriorating around him. That could be the case. They didn't. Maybe that's an implication. I didn't notice that, but that definitely could be an implication there. And that's maybe
like Spider-Man is basically an Oscorp property at that point, right? Like at least the idea of the hero.
Yeah.
He's like a
So I think
hero.
that could definitely be a interesting case. That could be like a season 1 stinger where it was like, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to tell your secret safe with me, but I own you. So
yeah. You're my bitch.
The tables have turned, the black guy owning the white guy. Anyway, but I think, got the Pop-Tart out. But I do think that, I liked that development. And then the last episode which is where this is from. They have Rhino, as you can tell from the guy all the way on the right. If you couldn't tell that was Rhino, definitely Rhino, but he doesn't.
I'm the Rhino. I will crush you. I will kill you. Never mind.
Yeah. But I think he's gonna definitely show up later. He just doesn't show up in this episode in his Rhino outfit. But yeah, so the last episode is mainly, like this Russian gang is like it's setting up like the Doc Ock stuff, and then Spider-Man is continuing, and then the stinger for episode 5, for episode 4 was like Harry finds out. Harry becomes like the guy in the chair, which made me want to throw up, but like, whatever. And then this last episode is like these Russian guys that are associated with Doc Ock, and he's giving them stuff, and then they break out of prison, and Spider-Man is like continuing his relationship with like Norman and Harry. And then you also get a lot of Nico stuff as well, like their relationship, their friendship. And it's also teased at the end of episode 5 that Nico has a crush on Peter, which like that's an interesting tidbit, because I always thought in the comics she was a lesbian, but apparently she's bi. So there's that. Okay. And apparently there's a lot of fucked up shit with her relationship in the comics with Carolina Dean, who was part of the Runaways, because that's where Nico Minoru is from. So there was like a whole lots of fucked up shit. Like she started a relationship with Alex Wilder, who was like the leader of the Runaways, and then she broke up with him, and then apparently manipulated the fuck out of Carolina's like feelings towards her. And then they eventually get together at the end, even though all the Runaway fans, all 5 of them, were like, what the fuck? Why? This is like an abusive fucking relationship. What the fuck are you doing? So, that's a mighty big oof. But it seems like they're going for more of like the typical. It definitely feels like an 80s. It feels like Teen Wolf. That's essentially what it is. Like the main guy has his eye set on the popular hot girl. Meanwhile, his best friend, who's a girl who's way better in every significant way to the girl he has a crush on, is standing right there. It's like, Peter, I understand you're an idiot when it comes to social situations. I know that's part of the character. But generic Pearl, bland as fuck, no personality. Meanwhile, your best friend is Asian goth chick. Like, come on, bro. She's right there. My guy, what are you doing? Like, that's like ignoring cake for like a banana. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, banana's a healthy alternative,
Yeah, but like, fuck that. I want cake. Like, come on, bro. Peter, you fucking idiot. Like, come on now. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But overall, I thought these episodes were good. The Lonnie Lincoln stuff, I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. It's just like I feel like it's kind of typical. It's like black guy in an urban environment has to be like part of a gang type of thing. I don't know. I just feel like that's a bit stereotypical. I understand it's still a serious like thing that a lot of minorities are going through, like the black community is going through, but I feel like it's still a bit repetitive and I feel like it could have been maybe handled a little bit better. And then by the end of episode 5, Lonnie gets like the title of Tombstone, and like he's like seeing like, oh, this is my family now. He's loyal. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't really totally care. Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't care, but I also don't totally care. But we're getting a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, it's still a bit clunky. It still could be a lot better, but I don't think it's bad. Like I'd give like the show like a firm like 7.5 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's not great. But I think there are other better Spider-Man shows, but I'm like the next episode, it's called Duel with the Devil, so we're definitely getting Charlie Cox as Daredevil next episode. So that's great. I'm super stoked for that. But overall, it's a good show. I like it a lot. But it's not like perfect or anything. It's like I know like Spectacular Spider-Man is the be all and end all for people because that's like, oh my god, that can do no wrong. I will say though, I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for the Spectacular Spider-Man. Great show. I never liked the animation. I thought it always looked like a high school freshman. It took like one course in like Flash animation, and that's what came out. Like I never liked. I will say like because my friend, I'm like, because he was talking about like, oh yeah, he's like, I don't like Spectacular. He doesn't like Spectacular Spider-Man and all. He's like, I don't like how they reinvented it. I don't like how they modernized it. Exactly. Like, bro, come on. But yeah, I think I think it's overall a good show. But Spectacular Spider-Man, like my friend, like my buddy hates it. Like he does not like it. I like the show, but I never liked the animation. I always thought it looked kind of dopey to me. Yeah, exactly. It's like I thought the storytelling was great. I hope we don't get like an X-Men 97 version of Spectacular Spider-Man because like I think it should just stay its own thing and like all that. But that's neither here nor there. Well, in terms of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, we're 5 episodes in. Great stuff. I don't give a fuck about like black and brown and racist shit. Like whatever. They're good characters. They're interesting characters. It's just the only major clunky things, the bad stuff is like I feel like they're poorly paced. The subplots aren't as great, and the animation is a bit clunky. But outside of that, I think it's a good show. Good so far.
Okay, so out of let's say out of 10 stars so far, where would you rate it?
It's like 7.5.
Okay, and that's halfway through the show, right? We're halfway through its season 1. We know season 2 has already been greenlit. Season 3 has been greenlit. So you know the show is going to be around for a long time. And 5 out of 10 episodes in, I mean, the critics love it. The average Rotten Tomatoes score for each episode sits at 97%. And, you know, the audience score is a bit lower, 64%. But, you know, Rotten Tomatoes for TV shows isn't necessarily as reliable as for the movies. But nonetheless, those are good numbers. I mean, and you seem to enjoy it. So let us know in the comments down below, guys. If you're not watching us live, let us know what you thought about the show. And are you going to continue to watch it? Because episodes 6, 7, and 8 drop next week. And in the meantime, of course, hit that like button while you're at it. Right now, we're going to move back over to the news because we do have a couple of news items and then we have to get into the quick hits. And of course, we have DC news as well. So let's get into the next piece of news. Then, sticking with the Marvel theme for a second, John, there was a rumor going around. It's I don't know how reliable this is, but there have been conflicting reports that Jonathan Majors might be returning to the MCU as Kang. Now, this is a recent rumor and it's been making the rounds, and essentially what it's about is that Kevin Feige has been contemplating bringing him back so that they can kind of wrap up a few loose ends, and then, you know, from there on, they can kind of move on. Now, this comes from Screen Geek, which I would say they're more reliable than, like, you know, My Time to Shine and, like, Scooper
Jeff
territory.
Snyder.
But like Screen Geek they're still not like Deadline, but like they're more reliable in general. So like, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but there may be some legitimacy to this. So Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, this is according to the report from Screen Geek, or rumor if you want to call it that. But Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige is considering bringing Jonathan Majors back into the MCU. Now, the idea is for Majors to appear in a future Marvel project to wrap up some loose ends with Kang and then close the character's story. Now, of course, TMZ recently picked this up and they weighed in on the conversation. They said that multiple sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ that Jonathan has not engaged in any talks to return to the MCU after he was booted in 2023, following that, of course, guilty verdict in his criminal trial. Now, he does have a book, not a book, but he's got a new movie coming out, right? Like, I forget what it's like. I forget the name of his most recent movie. I'm sure some of you guys in the chat might know, but he has a movie coming out. He is back working. I think it's called Magazine Dreams. So people are thinking maybe that's going to have some awards attention potentially, but we'll see how good it is. So he's trying to make a comeback in a manner of speaking. But if you look at the two reports, by the way, TMZ isn't denying that Kevin Feige is considering bringing him back. And the report from Screen Geek talks about Kevin Feige considering bringing him back. So basically, they're not really contradicting each other. One of them is saying, well, basically Marvel Studios is thinking about bringing him back. That doesn't mean they've talked to him yet. And TMZ is saying, well, nobody has talked to him about it. So both could be true at the same time, John. But what are your thoughts on this idea? I mean, A, do you believe the reports? And B, if you believe them to be true, then what do you really think about like just the whole idea of having Jonathan Majors even back for essentially, maybe a future Marvel movie where he's Kang again?
I don't know. It's just like setting him up as the next big bad and then immediately backtracking on it because the dude's a piece of shit and then trying to get him back again. It's like, I understand wanting to tie up loose ends, but at the same time, just let it lie. Just let it lie where it is, because I feel like the thing is, who really gave a fuck about Kang? Like, in all honesty,
I mean, it's also in Loki season 2. I feel like they wrapped up the Kang story pretty nicely, right? Like it's like he's
I don't know.
done and
I never
dusted.
watched Loki season 2, so what
Like, you guys let us know in the chat if you guys watch Loki season 2. I'm pretty sure his story was kind of wrapped up. Like he's defeated. Loki kind of takes control of the TVA. He's but like he plugs himself in and that's it, right? So, by the way, Caleb saying High Evolutionary was more Kang than Kang. Giving Kang some proper closure is the least they can do according to Enterprising. I mean, yes, and it's an indirect conclusion to his story in Loki season 2. So I guess if they did want to properly give him a conclusion, I suppose they could. But I mean, John, do you think it's worth whatever amount of controversy it's going to generate bringing him back? The PR nightmare it could still be, because again, we're not quite done with all of his legal troubles, I don't think. And I know he's trying to make a comeback. He's got a movie, Magazine Dreams, coming out. But do you feel like this is something that Kevin Feige would actually touch with a 3-foot pole, or is he seriously considering?
I don't
this?
think so. I don't think these are true. I think they just want to bring people's hopes up because it's like, oh, he kind of got, like, in terms of like him being a villain, like the next big bad, and like they kind of screwed him over. Because I mean, they did, fire James Gunn, but they brought him back when they realized, oh shit, we fucked up. So I think, I just say let it be. In the great words of Sir Paul McCartney and the Beatles, let it be. Because I think you already screwed it over. And the thing is, he's not a threat, because in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, bro got killed by ants. Like, I know that
I'm
was
like,
one...
He's been defeated like all these many times. He got defeated by Ant-Man. Come on now. It's
like,
kind of
it's not
his
even
resume
Ant-Man
doesn't
himself.
speak
Ants.
for itself.
Fucking ants.
It's hard to believe him as like a Thanos equivalent at that point.
You just can't. You just fucking can't. Like, just let it be. So, like, maybe he'll give, like, at the very most, give him like one of those Marvel presentation things. I know they said they would stop doing those, which is fucking beyond stupid. But like maybe give him like a TV movie or a special or like a mini series or something to like maybe tie up loose ends. But even then, I think that would be yeah, like they could have recasted him, even though the ending of Quantumania showed they all look
I
the
think
same. But
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why they A didn't recast him and then B they just went away from that story is because what they had done so far wasn't working. So they needed to find a fix somehow. And I
Yeah.
think obviously they wouldn't want to continue with him considering the legal issues that he had, and obviously how that reflects on the man himself. You don't want to, I'm sure a lot of people, on set wouldn't be comfortable working with him at that point either. So with that in mind, I think they were gonna make a pivot anyway, but then with letting Jonathan Majors go, they just felt like this is a nice, point for us to sort of like be like, this is it for Kang, and now we move on. Of course, down the road they can always, if we are doing a soft reboot of the MCU after Secret Wars, then maybe we bring Kang back in the future sometime down the road as a villain again, and you kind of do it over, maybe with a different actor in the role, a different take on the character. Maybe that's the way you go about it, but I just don't think it makes any sense to kind of bring him back right now. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
You've already committed to RDJ as Doctor Doom. You've reworked the next two Avengers movies. I mean, yes, in a future movie, the rumor was, but how far in the future? I don't know. I mean, like, you're gonna get into the mutant saga, and then do you really want to get back to the multiverse saga again if you've already kind of moved on? So I just don't know how much weight you could put into either of these reports. But hey, you know what? Captain America: Brave New World is coming out soon, and I recently saw that the Heroes, what does it say? Heroes Reforged account on Instagram, they posted like a little viewing guide, so you can kind of prepare to watch this movie. So you don't have to watch every MCU movie. If you're new to the MCU and you want to know, like, what do I need to watch to catch up to Captain America 4, Captain America: Brave New World, you have to watch
that.
them.
I'm not doing homework. People can figure it out. Like, if I was actually watching this, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not watching all that.
I mean, there's still 11 movies they say here that you gotta watch because there's pieces from all of those. Because obviously, every
And then you
appearance for
wonder
Anthony
why
Mackie.
James Gunn is like, we're just gonna have each movie be a standalone in the same universe.
But
'cause
I mean,
I don't want my
I
fucking
hear you,
viewers doing
but-
homework.
But even the DCU 15 years in is gonna have enough connections that you can't just watch,
If it lasts
the movie.
15 years, if we get to
I'm-
that point.
I'm just saying, but let's just suppose it goes that long. But I mean, hey, here basically the theme is all of these movies are either showcasing every appearance of Anthony Mackie or Thunderbolt Ross, whether it's played by William Hurt, of course, up until now being played by Harrison Ford, and then all the Avengers movies that he's a part of, because those are world-changing events that inform and address, and also Eternals, because the big elephant in the room, or in the ocean as it were, that becomes adamantium. All of that is stuff that you need to be aware of to understand what's going on in this movie, because this is a big MCU spanning film. Obviously, you gotta know that they've recast Thunderbolt Ross. The first time we saw Sam Wilson was in The Winter Soldier. You have the Age of Ultron appearance by him, where they kind of do like a training scene at the end. He's obviously a part of the movie a little bit. He's in Ant-Man. He makes that little appearance with a little bit of a fight. Then of course Thaddeus Ross in Black Widow. I don't know how much that connects to this movie, if at
He
all.
was in Black Widow?
He was, like, he had a couple of scenes where they're chasing her down, and because the events of Black Widow take place between
for the
Civil
life of
War
me
and
remember
Avengers
most of
Infinity
that
War.
movie.
But he was in there. I mean, that image is from the movie. Then of course he was in Avengers Infinity War, where he got snapped away. Then of course he gets the shield in Avengers Endgame, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, of course, is where he takes on the shield and he becomes Captain America. Eternals is the Tiamat, the Eternal in the ocean. Not the Eternal. What are they called? The
Celestial.
The Celestial in the ocean that is now turned into rock, which happens to be adamantium. So yeah, you need to watch all of those movies, 11 movies in total. But dude, they also put out this clip of him basically at Nellis Air Force Base, and basically going like jumping, like, I don't know what would you call it. What would you call this? Like just what kind of a is it a free dive? I don't know. How would you describe this? He's just doing this with
Skydiving.
Skydiving, yeah. Not for the movie or anything. It just seems like they're doing this. I don't know if it's a promotional stunt or marketing, because I'm like, is this their way of addressing that Captain America still believes in America, because here he is with the U.S. military, and of course then he signs a shield for them. So yeah, I didn't really understand like how this wasn't like when Tom Cruise took what's his name, James Corden on a flight on his on like a jet, and that was like, to me, it was an enjoyable promotional stunt. This just seems like, nice, cool. It addresses a certain, a very specific community, or maybe people who are skeptical about the film, but not much beyond that. So I just thought it was interesting. It's only a minute long basically, but more promotion for the movie. Speaking of the movie, John, we've sort of known this for a little while, but Liv Tyler is back. She's going to be reprising her role as Betsy Ross. So, Thaddeus Ross's daughter, except now her dad looks different, because he used to be played by William Hurt. Now it's Harrison Ford, what a lineage that is. But, it looks like this is her first appearance, obviously, since 2008's The Incredible Hulk. One's got to wonder, does that mean we're going to get Mark Ruffalo at some point in the movie? Like, would you be surprised to see that? Because honestly, I'm like, where has she been this whole time? What happened to that whole relationship? Because they didn't really end that movie like, oh, they broke up and went their separate ways, but they never addressed any of it from the moment that he, Mark Ruffalo took on the role in Avengers, because of course Edward Norton played the Hulk in The Incredible Hulk. What are your thoughts on Liv Tyler's return? Do you think that she's going to play a big role? And how do you think they're going to address where she's been this whole time?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it's like, oh, she was in witness protection because she needed to stay safe from Thaddeus Ross was like, oh, I'll put her in witness protection so she stays safe from all this hubbub and all this bullshit. So, and for some reason she gets, caught in the crossfire here. I'm curious how they're going to deal with it, because she hasn't been seen in almost The Incredible Hulk was almost 20 years ago.
Yep.
So I'm really curious how they're going to make that work. Especially when, apparently fucking Hulk canoodled on a fucking alien planet and has a son now.
Right? We still don't know how that happened.
So it's like, fuck Black Widow, fuck Liv Tyler. All right, sure. Hulk's kid. Like, what? But I'm curious how, because she was, I think she was confirmed a while ago, but this is like, they're like confirming it again, like, hey, we're bringing in all these Hulk characters. We're bringing in all these.
She's not in any of the trailers, so I wonder how big of a role she even has.
We're bringing in this Hulk character because we're bringing in all the Hulk characters, because we can't make a Hulk movie, so we have to bring them in here. But yeah, I think exactly.
Yeah. That would be an awkward. He's like, Betsy. Meet
it would be
Scar.
very interesting. Be like, hey, Betsy, dab.
But dude, remember he's, because in the Shang-Chi post-credit scene, he's back to being his human self, or I guess he can now switch back and forth, and he's in full control of it, because of course the Hulk does not need any more character development. We just do it all off screen. But anyway,
wait, hang on. She-Hulk, what the fuck happened with that?
Oh, he should, but that's the thing. Did She-Hulk come out before Shang-Chi or after Shang-Chi?
That came out after. That was 2022 or 3.
I think the implication
was 2021, wasn't it?
No, but I think then the implication is that he can switch back and forth seamlessly now. Like, it's not something where he can only be one or the other. Like, he's
why would he if he has like?
I don't know. I don't.
This is confusing. Fuck Marvel, man. Like, they're making it like needlessly confusing for no fucking reason.
I have so many questions now. I've got like a whole set of questions that I totally forgot about. But anyway, continuity, schwantinuity, as they say. Let's move on to this was breaking news when we were about to go on the air with the show, so I figured let's add it in here. Amazon MGM Studios is exploring an international distribution arm for their theatrical distribution. So, of course, this is the gist of it. I'm going to read off a couple of paragraphs, so hang with me here. This is coming as an exclusive from Deadline. They're hearing from a lot of their sources that Amazon MGM Studios will launch an international theatrical distribution arm for all of their feature movies. They currently, internationally, they work with Warner Brothers to distribute all their films. Before that, I think it was Sony. But anyway, so right now it's Warner Brothers. And so, that deal comes to an end this year. Now, this is a big step for Amazon because obviously they have re-embraced the theatrical window. That, since acquiring MGM, they obviously have renamed themselves. Now they're Amazon MGM Studios because, of course, there's a lot of pedigree in the MGM name. The first big box office release for them under that new banner was 2023's Creed 3, which had a franchise record 58.3 opening, so $1 million opening, that is. It made $156 million domestically and 276 worldwide. So by no means like $1 billion blockbuster, but the fact that they don't have the ability to distribute it themselves means that they have to share the revenue with the distribution company, which is Warner Brothers. So it makes sense that, they're like, this is a natural turning point for us. Let's go and do it ourselves. Amazon has all the money in the world. You just have to lay the groundwork, because distributing a movie internationally is very complicated. You need a lot of infrastructure, you need offices, you need people working for you in different countries who understand the rule of law in all the different countries, and have connections with all the the local distributors, like local theater chains, not just the big ones like AMC, like Cinemark, that own theaters all over the world, but also a lot of the smaller ones, like all the mom and pop ones. Of course, they have the James Bond franchise, which is currently like in limbo, and whenever that gets out of that, a new movie, or whenever we get a new James Bond. But John, the Culver Studios that used to be the MGM lot, now they're part of Amazon MGM Studios. Do you think this is a good idea, that they want to distribute their own movies abroad, or do you think they should have just gone to one of the bigger studios, like one of the ones that have been doing it for a long time, like Warner Brothers, and just re-up their deal, or maybe go to Paramount, Sony, Disney, somebody else? Or Universal?
Fuck it. I mean, Amazon's like the richest company in the world next to Google and Apple. Fuck it. Just do whatever the fuck you want at this point. So yeah, I would say distribute them internationally yourself. Fuck it. Do it. Have these other big honchos have less control. Try not to create monopolies and all that shit. So I think it could be interesting to see that. It's just I hope that the Broccolis can get out of their deal with James Bond, so that we can get another good James Bond movie again, because apparently Amazon wants to do stupid shit with the franchise. So
well, I mean, but that would be hard to do, because they're both tied in. Like, Amazon bought the rights as part of the MGM deal. I don't know how the Broccolis separate themselves from it. I don't exactly know all the in and outs of how they share the rights. If it's like Amazon just distributes them, I don't think it's like, I think they share the ownership, right? It's not like a Universal Studios, like, they own the distribution rights to the Hulk and Disney can make the movies. It's a little more complicated than that, if I remember correctly. Somebody let us know in the chat if you guys know what the ownership situation behind that is. But yeah, I mean, clearly right now the two parties are not in agreement about what to do with the James Bond character moving forward. And yeah, I mean, this will obviously play a role in whatever happens with the James Bond franchise, because when the next movie comes out, like, I think in the past they've distributed the movies through Sony and Warner Brothers, but now it could be just all Amazon MGM Studios, which would be a big change, and hopefully that would mean they get to put a lot more change in their own back pockets. But let us know in the chat what you guys thought about that. I mean, it's a business of Hollywood story, but of course we've gotten into the Jonathan Majors news. Is he coming back to the MCU? Should he be coming back to the MCU? What do you think about Captain America 4? Betsy Ross coming back after almost 20 years of being away. So how will Liv Tyler's character fit into the picture? But you know what? While you guys are thinking about all of that, John, you got to hit the music, because it's time. It's time. It's waiter time. No, it's quick hits time. So, sorry, wrestling reference, but let's dive into the quick hits. We have lots of quick hits to get into today. The first one, John, today on Empire Magazine, they put out an exclusive new image from Avatar Fire and Ash, looking at David Thewlis, of course, who was in Wonder Woman and, more importantly, in the Harry Potter franchise. And he's going to be playing Sky Captain Paylock. And so we've got an image from Empire. Let me kind of pull this up here. This is what it looks like. What are your thoughts on this? Again, a new character being introduced, the Sky Tribe. That's going to be the focus of Fire and Ash.
It's on purpose at this point, right? Like, they're not even trying to like differentiate Nickelodeon. Like, yeah, that's honestly just like James Cameron's just ripping off fucking Avatar: The Last Airbender at this point. Like, yeah, they're not even being subtle about it. Like, I'm still gonna watch them, but they're not great movies. They're barely even good movies. So like, I mean, I'll watch them, but that's about it. Like, David Thewlis is a great actor. But yeah. No,
I mean, hey, this movie is gonna make $1 billion. That's what we know for sure. But beyond that, we don't know much else. maybe if you go back and watch more Avatar, like the Last Airbender, maybe it will give us more clues as to what the story of this movie is going to be. But anyway, moving on to the next story. So Harrison Ford is now a Disney legend. You know what attracted me to this particular photo though? Because he's got himself an Air Force One jacket on here, which I'm sure the irony of
my plane.
The irony of that is not lost on Disney or anybody at Marvel. I can't wait for that. They need to have something like that in here because clearly he's gonna be on Air Force One at some point, and I hope he's like kicking off, I don't know, like the leader or something and telling them, "Get off my plane," like you said, John. This is one of the reasons why I want to watch the movie, because I'm like, look, if nothing else, it's Harrison Ford. You gotta watch him. He really misses. And I also want to see just how good Anthony Mackie's Captain America is. I mean, look, there's some inside reports coming out recently that the movie's actually pretty good. So who knows? Maybe all the the negativity around it is not even warranted. So yeah, as Enterprising is saying, I have a lot of respect for Ford, man. Exactly, we all do. The man is one of the legends, not just a Disney legend. He's just a legend in general. But John, you've been mentioning this recently. So I kind of pulled up this little video here where they're kind of putting, all three versions of the Fantastic Four in, one sequence here. And you can see the comparisons of all the different character designs, especially like the Thing, and you see the different versions of it. Do you have a particular, take on which one was better than the rest? I mean, obviously the Thing has been getting a lot of attention.
Obviously the 2015 version is just Kino. That's like cinema. Like that's just pure unadulterated cinema right there.
I think Kate Mara did a good job in that movie. She was a good Invisible
I don't know.
Woman,
I'm just kidding. I never watched it.
But honestly, I don't understand the controversy around the Thing. I think that the Thing from the new version of the Fantastic Four, the character design looks as comic accurate as it can be. It's more believable. The fact that it's CGI, I'm like, how else are you gonna do it? You're not gonna put anybody in a bodysuit again because it just doesn't age very well. Like look at Michael Chiklis.
I'm sorry.
As good a job
I love how Michael Chiklis looks.
I
love it.
prefer
I love the practical
look.
I mean, he could have been a little bit less orange, but it still looks way better than either of the CGI versions. Honestly, like I would say it got worse. Like I'm controversial. Like I think the Thing in the 2015 movie looks better than the one in the upcoming movie.
I think the 2015 was like more edgy because that movie was more edgy and dark. I think what they're doing now is more essential Fantastic Four from the comics, and I'm fine with the design matching up with what we get in the comics.
I mean,
I get it. It's not gonna like ruin my movie experience if I don't like the character design. Let's be honest. The story of the movie is gonna be like what makes it or breaks it for me. So
yeah, Josh Trank's movie is, but I mean, I can understand what he wanted to do with the movie, but yeah, it fit. Like he wanted to do like a body horror, like David Cronenberg kind of thing, which is definitely a cool idea, especially with like Mr. Fantastic and shit like that. But yeah, they done goofed because there was a lot of really good ideas. They did have the Fantastic Car in, like they shot it too. Like there's like behind the scenes stuff of that, but they just like never used that in the movie. There's a lot of really like Jeremy Slater, the writer, like he loved Fantastic Four and he wanted to do it right. But the problem is like both Josh Trank and Fox didn't want to do like actual Fantastic Four shit. They wanted to make Christopher Nolan's Fantastic Four, and then so that's what Fox wanted to do, and then Josh Trank wanted to make like a body horror movie, and Jeremy Slater is like, "What the fuck do you want me to do?" I don't have Twitter. Why the fuck would I go on? Why would I make a Twitter, especially now? Ew, gross. No, but we'll try to do Discord.
that's how we're gonna do all the call-ins. I mean, that's gonna be one of the features on Discord. We're gonna be able to talk to you guys while we're on the show. That'd be awesome. We'll get into that though. We're working on it, and hopefully we can deliver for you soon. But no, I mean, hey, look, the 2025 version, I think so far from what limited footage we have seen, it looks good. I don't mind it at all. Like the Enterprising is saying, he's the most cheery of the three, which I appreciate. He's more comfortable in his skin, even though he still struggles with the fact that he looks nothing like what he used to. So, which is natural. It's kind of like similar to King Shark and how James Gunn showed us like how he looks at the world around him. He's like, I want some of that, but I can't because I'm I'm a shark that can talk. Anyway, So of course the Super Bowl is a couple of days away. It's this weekend. We hope you guys will be watching. There'll be a lot of movie trailers dropping, but if you're gonna get a 30-second ad spot, you might have to pay $3 to $5 million to one of the stars, one of the many stars who we already know are gonna be in the big game in one of the many commercials. So your all-out expense for one of these commercials could be 10 to 12 million on the low end, but you might end up spending as much as 20 million on the high end. So I mean, hey, I'm sure Matt Damon, Billy Crystal, and Catherine O'Hara took that money and ran, even if they don't believe in the products. But it's an expensive 30 seconds, man. 8 million that's just to get the ad. Then if you're spending the money to make the ad, you probably are looking at somewhere between 10 to 20 million dollars. That is insane. Let us know in the chat or comments if you think that's a worthy investment. Last year the Super Bowl had 123 million viewers. So I mean, hey, for a lot of companies, a lot of studios, a lot of brands, it's probably a worthy investment. But for most of us, that's a pretty good chunk of change. But moving on, IMAX records were beaten at this year's Chinese New Year. So the box office in China just roared to $53 million. Now that's a record-breaking weekend for Chinese New Year, and there's a lot of local releases as well as some Hollywood movies out there. So IMAX is doing really, really well for itself. And you know what? The Chinese box office is getting back to where it was pre-pandemic, where that actually surpassed the North American box office as like the biggest movie market in the world. So we'll see, where things go from here. But IMAX doing well. I mean, I think that also bodes well for Superman, Fantastic Four, because a lot of these big movies, you want them to play in China. You want them to be able to take advantage of, basically the huge audience that brings. It is, like I said, it's still the biggest market outside of North America. So the fact that IMAX is doing well bodes well for all of these other movies that we would hopefully we'll see in China soon. But hey, you know what? In other movie casting news, it looks like come on, let's get this bar needs to disappear so I can talk about the story. James Norton, Patty Considine, and Pip Torrens have now boarded Guy Ritchie's Wife and Dog. The trio has now joined Cosmo Jarvis, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rosamund Pike, and Anthony Hopkins in the Black Bear pick, which is now in production. Holy cow, that's a lot of big names. Wife and Dog, I have no idea what the story of this movie is going to be, but if you got all that talent in one room, then I mean, hey, maybe it's something really, really good. Enterprising saying, how ironic would it be if China saved Superman's box office? I don't think Superman's box office is going to need to be saved. I think Superman will do just as well, or certainly well enough that we don't really need to get to China, even though I'm sure Warner Brothers would love for it to play in China as well. So hopefully it will, but who knows? We'll see. Sorry, Caleb. I don't think they're going to be paying you $20 million for the Super Bowl ad. They'll be paying Fox and all the actors. Like that's where all that money is going. But hey, let's see what else do we have in the comments. Matt Damon looks like he could have been Mr. Fantastic. LOL. Yes, Enterprising. Maybe another time. I think he's maybe a little too old to take that role on, and maybe he does. I don't think he wants to be playing that role for like the next 20 years, which Pedro Pascal is okay with, it seems like. But hey, Corey Stoll, of course, he was in the Ant-Man movies, the first one and the third one. He's now become the latest star to join the Matchbox movie that Apple is working on. Of course, it's going to star John Cena. And if you look at the other cast members, it is insane the amount of, big stars they've assembled for this. Of course, Corey Stoll is only the latest one to join the movie, but he's now joining. Of course, John Cena is in there, Jessica Biel is in there, Sam Richardson's in the movie, Arturo Castro, and of course, there's two other fellow MCU stars for Corey to play along with. That's Danai Gurira, who of course plays, I forget the name of her character, but she's in Black Panther and the Avengers movie. She's like, leads the Royal Guard of Wakanda. I'm sure the name is going to come to me. You guys can let me know in the chat. And of course, Teyonah Parris, who's also in the Marvels in WandaVision. She is also in this movie. So, I mean, Matchbox, it's now looking like, this high octane thriller is only adding more and more talent. So Apple's got the money and they're splashing it. Enterprising saying Guy Ritchie needs another hit. Yes, Guy Ritchie does need another hit. Maybe the one he's working on now will be a big one. Matchbox better be something special. Yes, it better be. With the amount of names they've got in there now, it should be. It better be. By the way, John will be right back. He had to step away for a second, but he will be here in no time. In the meantime, we're going to continue the quick hits. So Marvel has quote unquote slowed down with Armor Wars. It doesn't mean it will never happen though. That's according to Marvel producer Nate Moore. He's saying doesn't mean we'll never make it. It does mean we just have a little bit more considered. We'll be a little bit more considered so that every time out audiences are guaranteed quality. What do you guys think about that? Do you think this is truly just a move, to get a better quality story out there? Do you think they're reworking it because they just don't want anybody to remember that Rhodey was a Skrull for the last 10 years? I don't know. I mean, I think the fact that this character was so attached to everything that happened in that Secret Invasion TV show, maybe they're reworking the whole project. It was supposed to be a TV show, then it became a movie. Now we don't know when it's going to come out. But the fact that they're not killed it completely, and Nate Moore is saying, look, we've just slowed down, and he's pointing to like, we're going to make sure this is a good movie when it comes out. I'm okay with that. I just don't know where it fits in the bigger picture. Are we going to get it before Secret Wars? Is Rhodey going to be in Secret Wars? Is he going to be around after that? These are all good questions. Enterprising is like, sure, I won't hold my breath. I mean, well, it's a low point. It's a low point right now for the project. It's still in development though, so it's not quite done yet. Now, of course, what's also not done yet is Andor Season 2. Season 2 is now on its way, and we've got some footage from, I think it was a recent Disney Plus commercial that showcased some of the the footage from
Star Wars
movies or from the TV show. But Andor Season 2 now marks the TIE Avengers on-screen introduction in canon. Of course, this was part of Legends, Star Wars Legends, but this is the first time now that we are officially seeing it in anything that is considered canon in Star Wars. So, I mean, guys, what do you think about this? The first season of Andor is one of the best TV shows I've seen in the past 5 years, period. Enterprising is excited about it. Do you guys think that this means more elements tied to the TIE Avenger are going to become canon in the Star Wars universe now? It looks very interesting to me, and of course Diego Luna in the footage seems to be piloting one of them, so I wonder how that fits into the story. Cassian Andor is probably one of the most memorable characters that Disney Star Wars has produced, so I'm excited for season 2. Season 1 is anything to go off of. I think season 1 of Star Wars was like the best thing Star Wars has ever done, quite frankly. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I'm excited for it. All right, John, you can step back in. We have moved on from Star Wars. So the controversial Prince Netflix documentary will not be released, and the state is now free to create a new project. Now, here's the TLDR of this. So Netflix and the state of Prince had entered into an agreement, and basically they agreed that they were going to produce a 6-hour documentary. And then, they hired director Ezra Edelman, who went and made a 9-hour version of the documentary, which wasn't all positive. So like, it includes some allegations from ex-girlfriends of Prince, like, basically saying that he wasn't the nicest person, and
I'd believe that.
Physical abuse and stuff. Now, because of that, obviously the state was not happy with this. Their representatives said that, hey, the film was filled with dramatic, factual inaccuracies and sensationalized renderings of certain events from his life.
Ain't
so
that convenient?
They took the opportunity when they got a 9-hour version versus what was agreed to being a 6-hour version to basically say, nope, can't make this happen. Like, we're gonna withhold the music rights, so you can't use any of his music in this, which obviously is a big downside. So now it looks like the Prince estate and Netflix, according to a statement from Netflix, have come to a mutual agreement that they will allow the state to develop and produce a new documentary featuring exclusive content from Prince's archive, and as a result, the Netflix documentary will not be released, which was probably a more even-keeled look at his life, positive and otherwise. Do you think, John, that now we're just gonna get a sanitized version of this, where
probably
they're not gonna say anything bad about him?
We're gonna get like a Bohemian Rhapsody kind of deal, where it's just very PG-13, very sanitized, and we're not going to be getting anything that could show like, oh, God forbid, if Prince, I knew Prince was a piece. When he treated Weird Al like shit, I'm like, yeah, Prince is a fucking asshole. Like, don't get me wrong, great artist, and what he did for music, legendary, but I mean, it's pretty much known that the guy was an asshole. So it's like, it's whatever, but yeah, we're probably gonna get like an extremely sanitized documentary. But even then, like, I mean, if it is actually wrong and it's false allegations, then yeah, try to avoid those. But if like you're also at the same time sanitizing the hell out of it, then it's like, that's a little bit not great. Because again, Bohemian Rhapsody, that's what it was. Bohemian Rhapsody was so sanitized, and it felt like so PG-13, and especially what Sacha Baron Cohen wanted to do with the film before it went into, that whole thing, where like one of the original ideas that Brian May wanted to do was have Freddie die in the middle of the movie, and then the rest of the movie was going to be about how Queen moved on from Freddie. And it's like, wow, you have a fucking gigantic fucking ego, you loser. You're nothing without Freddie, you fucking asshole.
Dude, half the people you ask them, they're like, Queen are still a thing? Are they still touring? Like, it's...
Yeah, with Adam Lambert. Like,
there's a reason for that. I'm like, this, but it's like, you can't do Queen without Freddie. But anyway.
Yeah, I know. But it's just, it's like, obviously avoid fake shit, but at the same time show all the true things of his life. Because we don't want something sanitized like Bohemian Rhapsody, even though that was a movie and not a documentary. But we also don't want another Leaving Neverland, which is like clearly false shit about this guy, and like putting that into a public forum and everyone believes it because it's a documentary. So try to like have like an in-between of like show true shit, but at the same time, don't sanitize his life. That's essentially what it is.
Absolutely. I mean, this just seems like an opportunity for the state to, again, sanitize his life story. And I feel bad for Ezra, the director of the documentary. He put a lot of work, like 4 years, I think, of his life into this. And now he's not going to get to see any of that come to life. So it is what it is. But hey, Dune 2, The Wild Robot, and Wicked have won Advanced Imaging Society honors. Now, the Advanced Imaging Society is like a trade organization. Basically, were founded by Disney, DreamWorks, and IMAX, and a bunch of other big studios. And on the premise of awarding and promoting, stereoscopic 3D and other new technologies in Hollywood. So they hand out what they call the Lumiere Awards, not to be confused with the Lumiere Awards that the French Film Academy hands out. But these are essentially categories where they're honoring the best movies for taking advantage of HDR, stuff like that. So you look at the complete list of winners. The best film live action went to Dune Part 2. The best feature film animated went to The Wild Robot. Best documentary, remember I mentioned earlier, Superman the Christopher Story just won best documentary, and then the best motion picture musical was won by Wicked. Then you have a few of the other categories like best use of high dynamic range, aka HDR. And in the feature film category, Dune won. I believe in the TV show category, Shogun won. So, they have like best use of VR, AR, XR, What If, an immersive story won for that. So it's more technical awards than anything else. Best 2D to 3D conversion was won by Deadpool and Wolverine. And, beyond that, best episodic animation went to Arcane Season 2. So, you have a number of things like 8K production, Deep Ocean, which is probably like an IMAX movie. Best live event cinema experience was a U2 immersive concert at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And then best production technology award went to the F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix, which was really, really big this year. So, you've got a lot of winners here, John. It's not like this is the biggest award you can win in Hollywood, but it does certainly go to show you that, if you're doing well, I mean, if you have the technology, like this is mostly for big studio pictures, and you're executing really well with that, then this is something that addresses the hard work that the filmmakers put into these movies. But I just wanted to highlight it because I thought it was a decent piece of news. Because again, Dune is probably going to get some Oscars coming up, and The Wild Robot also is nominated for Best Picture. So I thought that was fun. But moving on beyond that, we've got another Oscar story, John. It's pretty unusual for an animated movie to get nominated in the Best Sound category. So, but there's something interesting here. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but the Wild Robot sound, the supervising sound designer, Randy Thom, was the supervising sound editor, designer, and recording mixer on The Incredibles, for which he won one of his 2 Oscars. So it's so rare. Like The Incredibles was one of the last movies to get nominated for in that category. I think
bro is just goated apparently.
Apparently, because I'm like, unless it's him, nobody else seems to be able to get into this category with an animated movie. Because the last time we saw something in this category, like as a nomination, was Soul in 2020, in the height of the pandemic. And before that, even to make the short list, which is like the list from which the nominees are picked from, Pinocchio in 2022 was the last one to even make the shortlist. So it's been like there's been over 2 years since we had a movie make the shortlist, over 4 years since the movie even got to the nominees category. But given that this man has won for 2004 The Incredibles, do you think that The Wild Robot could win? Because obviously, like in an animation movie, you're creating even more of the soundscape because you have no natural sound to work with. You had no production sound mixer on an actual live action set recording audio. So you're really creating things from scratch. So I feel like the animated movie should be represented a little bit more. But the fact that they aren't, do you think that the person here who's nominated for this one, for The Wild Robot, he's won it before? Do you think he can do it again?
I think he could. I think that would be really awesome, definitely showcasing, like, I know the Academy is not one of those things that holds a lot of respect for a lot of people. They're just rich assholes circle jerking each other off and all that. And that's
Figure Drawing is agreeing with me.
Bend over? What am I?
You said it. You were saying earlier because like the movies that win Oscars,
yeah,
they have to.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to see like an animated movie having some kind of respect that it gets a nomination outside of animation. I think that's nice to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, The Wild Robot is nominated in multiple categories, including Best Animated Feature. So hopefully it wins for several of those, including, Best Sound. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, moving on to the next story, John. Have you ever heard of Magic the Gathering? Because apparently it's now getting a live action universe that's in the works. From Legendary Entertainment, and of course Hasbro, which owns the toy franchise, or and now Legendary, which has of course done Pikachu and they're the ones behind Dune and stuff, alongside Warner Brothers. They're bringing this franchise to live action. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is actually going to work out, or is this going to be one of those situations where what was the one with like the I'm thinking a long time ago they adapted a video game. I forget, they had like, I think it was Matt Damon was in it or something, and it just was a horrible adaptation.
I don't think Magic the Gathering ever got anything.
Not this franchise, but I'm thinking of something else that was. Somebody will maybe let me know in the chat.
You're thinking of Dungeons and Dragons?
No, not Dungeons and Dragons. It was before that. It was like a number of years before that. It was like a video game adaptation that never went anywhere. But Enterprising saying hopefully it does better than the Dungeons and Dragons movie did, which it did fairly. World of Warcraft. Yes, Caleb. Thank you. World of Warcraft was a terrible live action movie.
What's actually really funny about the Warcraft movie is all the people who haven't played the games hated it, but all the fans of the games actually liked it. They're like, this is actually a really good adaptation of the games. That's what I heard. I'm
just saying, as a movie, you better get the average fan to like it, because that's how you get the money. But are you excited for this? Would you want to see this as a live action franchise?
I have no skin in the game. I've never played Magic the Gathering. I don't ever plan on playing Magic the Gathering. I would just say when this movie gets released on opening day, just make sure have some Febreze on standby for the theater attendees, for the theater ushers and all that. Maybe what they can do is every purchase of a Magic the Gathering movie ticket, you'll get a free deodorant, because that's what y'all motherfuckers need.
You mean all the nerds that are gonna walk into the movie theater on opening?
Yeah, it's gonna smell like a fucking anime convention. I can tell you that.
Crazy, but hey, it's coming. It's coming our way. Let's see when it gets here.
It's coming. He is.
You know what else is? You know what else is coming?
This dick.
Werewolf. Werewolf is coming from Robert. I'm gonna avoid what you just. Never mind. Robert Eggers just said that his upcoming movie Werewolf is the darkest film he's ever written by far.
Which is saying
surprised?
Fucking a lot, because Nosferatu's pretty I mean, all of his movies are dark, but if this is the darkest, then this is like gonna be insane. He's just like, I bet Robert Eggers is just like scheming. He's like, I'm gonna fucking destroy whatever little credibility fucking Wolfman has. I'm gonna fucking destroy it, and what it's gonna be like Robert Eggers to Lee Whannell is like, I will destroy everything you have or were, and only then will you have my permission to fucking die. Just gonna go full Bane on him, just like, break the pact. Just fucking break the wolf in this case. Fucking Eggers is just like, I'm gonna make.
What was the line? He's like, life has defeated you or something. He's gonna say that whatever he says to him after.
It's like, you know, it's like that meme with Walter White, like the montage of him making meth and like him putting the correct chemicals in all the right places. It's like, that's Robert Eggers making the absolute perfect werewolf movie after Lee Whannell completely fucking destroyed the idea of making a good one.
Yep. The line from Bane was, "Victory has defeated you," and then he breaks his back. But anyway. Werewolf. It's gonna be really dark, and Robert Eggers is working on it right now. John, by the way, Mickey 17 just put out a new teaser. Did you see it? Are you excited for this movie? It's gonna be here right around the time Daredevil is gonna be here. March 7th.
I didn't see this sneak peek, but I'm stoked. Like, I love Robert R. Pats. I like Tony Collette. I like Mark Ruffalo when he's not playing the Hulk. So I'm stoked for this. And Bong Joon-ho, like, goated. Let's fucking go.
I mean, they show us some new footage in here, and obviously a little more of the story. God, it looks so crazy. This movie might be one of those, like, you don't see it coming good movies of the year. Like, it might just be a runaway success that nobody's talking. Like, for example, this movie might like make other movies such as a Captain America fall off the charts in a way that most of us might not see coming. I would be surprised. You know, I wouldn't bet money on it, but I'm like, you know, you can't go wrong with the talent that you have in front of and behind the camera on this movie. And the concept looks just fantastic. Like the fact they're going even more over the top than the book did.
Oh yeah.
So
he's like, I'm gonna fucking outdo the book, and you know what? That's pretty awesome.
Yep. Is Eggers confirmed to make a Labyrinth sequel? Is he? I mean,
it's confirmed.
He said it, right? Like, he's working on it. So he's working on 2 movies apparently. I think
I can't imagine
Werewolf
what they're gonna do
first
for Labyrinth, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, Enterprising is excited for Mickey 17. Caleb saying, to quote Gary Oldman, "Bring me everyone." Robert Eggers is heading for the crown. Yeah. I mean, give the man, well, don't give the man his Oscar yet, but if Werewolf is good enough, then maybe that could be his Oscar turn. But hey guys, that's it for the quick hits. If you enjoyed the quick hits, then as Manolo was just saying right there in the comments, hit the like button, let us know what you thought about it. We do appreciate you guys being here for the movie news that we bring to you, whether it's the news, quick hits. Let us know which story was your favorite. If you're not watching us live, drop down in the comments below. If you are watching us live, then stick around, because now we're getting into the main event, guys. We are here to talk about DC news. So welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily, and it's time to talk about the latest from the world of DC. We have a few different things to get into. Then we're going to dive into our main topic, which is to do with the Wonder Woman movie, not movie, but video game that is apparently delayed and is in quite a bit of trouble. We'll talk about why. But before we get into that, of course, we have other DC news, and to do that with me, I've got John. John, how are you doing, and are you ready for the DC news now?
Hell yeah.
Let's go. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, so let's dive into it straight away. The first one that we have here is a rumor. This rumor comes to us from Best Ever 23, so take it with a big ass grain of salt. But apparently, Kit Harrington is in talks to play Hush in Matt Reeves' The Batman 2. Do you believe it?
Ignoring the fact that this is complete and total horseshit and it's not true in the slightest. If Hush is the villain and Kit Harrington plays him, even though his name is spelled wrong here, I think it's only 1 R.
Is it only 1 R?
I think it's only 1 R. Yeah, because it's Harrington is spelled right in the text.
I see what you mean. Yes, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, I'm sure he would do a good job. I never watched Game of Thrones. I haven't seen anything else with him. I'm sure he would do a good job, but this is total bullshit because, like, oh, Hush is the villain and Kit Harington's playing him. Like Kit Harington, I know he doesn't have a stick in Marvel anymore because like he was there for like 2 seconds. He was gonna be apparently.
What was he gonna play? He
was gonna be like the Black Knight, I think.
Yeah.
And he was gonna be in the Blade movie for some reason because Blade shows up as a off-screen voiceover in the post-credit scene of Eternals. And he's like, "Are you ready?" Blah blah blah. And it's like, and then he turns, and then it cuts, and it's like, why the fuck would the Black Knight show up in a Blade movie? Yeah, exactly, Caleb. Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. Well, I mean, hey, it is rumor that's been circling around the internet for a little while. I think when we did we do a fan casting? We did a fan casting for the villain of the movie. I don't think we ever fan cast for Hush because we don't really know if that's the villain of the movie. So I suppose that if that becomes more of a certainty, then we'll get into it. Kit Harington could be a great pick for it. I just don't see that this is a true story as of right now. But then again, if it is true, then it would make sense because they are, prepping to film the movie later this year. So if they are going to cast a villain, now would be the time. But we'll see. We'll see if there's anything more substantial. I came across this post earlier, and I was kind of curious to get your take on it, John. Not really something that we can get into now because Jonathan Frakes is clearly too old to play Batman, but do you think he could have made a good Batman back in the 80s?
He definitely could have been a good Bruce Wayne, especially.
I mean, the dude is tall as F.
That's what matters. That's the only thing that matters.
I'm just saying.
But I think he could definitely.
He has a deep voice.
I feel like he would do like a good
jawline.
Like he would be like George Clooney, where he'd be like a really good Bruce Wayne, but I don't think he would be a very good Batman because essentially Riker. Oh my god, I said Kirk. Riker on TNG was essentially just Bruce Wayne because he put his dick into everything on that show, and then like he acted like like charismatic kind of douchey. Like that's Bruce Wayne. I don't know if he would be a good Batman though. I haven't seen anything from him of like good Batman quality.
I don't think he ever did like a lot of action. So I mean, not saying that he would have done his own stunts, but maybe, but I don't know if he was big enough at the time because Warner Brothers always wanted an A-lister, right? Back in the day. I mean, obviously Michael Keaton wasn't necessarily the A-lister, but they also were working with a director that they had a very hard time negotiating and getting it their own way. Tim Burton wanted what he wanted. So I think if Warner Brothers had their way, they would have always brought in more and more A-listers like George Clooney. Even Val Kilmer was at the peak of his powers when he got cast in the role. So I don't know if Jonathan Frakes was quite a big enough of a star to have been, given the role at the time. I feel like today, if he was, up and coming in a TV show that had been going on for 8 years, then, that would be a leap that you can make. But back then, TV actors making the leap to cinema was not very common. But I mean, hey, in an alternate reality, maybe we could have gone that. So I would have been interested to see how that would have played out. I definitely would have. Caleb is saying just no bat credit cards or bat nipples. Yes, I agree with you. Let's get rid of those two things. But the rest of it, I think Jonathan Frakes could have made a good Batman. Speaking of Batman, DC's Absolute Batman is still holding the spot for the number one selling comic book by units for the 4th month in a row, John. This is 4 months running. It's still at the top of the list. What are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised by the success of this comic book series that they've been doing? Or
I mean, it's nice. Expected? I mean, it's pretty nice to see like, Batman still being on top and comics still selling relatively well. Like in that respect, I know it's never gonna be like what it was before, but yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see. I still have no interest in it. I know. I'm sorry, but like I just have no interest. I know Scott Snyder's great. I just don't have any interest in Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. It just kind of looks. I know it isn't, and I know everyone's saying it isn't. Everyone's saying it's really good. It just looks like edgy crap to me. Like that's what all it looks like, and. I just have no interest.
Enterprising was saying Jonathan Frakes could have voiced Batman. I'm like, that could have worked. I could totally hear it. So yeah, I would have definitely bought into that. But yeah, I mean, the Absolute Universe has been pretty cool so far. The results are there. The people are loving it. It's outselling Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimate Absolute Wonder Woman, and Ultimate Spider-Man. So, and it also, Absolute Superman. So yeah, it's doing well. I mean, John, I know that you're not interested in it, but clearly a lot of people
A
out
lot of
there
people
who
are,
read
and that's
comics
cool with
are.
me.
Speaking of which, DC's Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman have now been officially listed as the top 9 best-selling comics of January. Of course, we just saw the list. They're 2 out of the top 3. When you look at this list right now, you've got Absolute Batman at the very top. Then you have Ultimate Wolverine. Then Absolute Wonder Woman. Again, are you surprised that the entire Absolute series of comics are doing so well? There's even more coming this year, like the Martian Manhunter, and I believe we're gonna get maybe even some other characters beyond that. But the Trinity we got last year, and so far they're all doing relatively well. I mean, Absolute Superman has sort of dropped off, but even that started off pretty hot.
Yeah. You know, whatever it is, it's it's cool with me. Congrats to Scott Snyder and all those guys. And the Ultimate line doing pretty well for the most part. That's good. Because I know I know yeah, it's a brick with spikes on it essentially. But yeah, it's nice to see that. I really liked like Spider-Man deserves to be happy, man. Like that's what I love how it's like they knew they royally fucked up with the whole Paul shit in the fucking mainline continuity, and now they're like, all right, as an apology, we're gonna restart the Ultimate line and we're gonna give him a family and he's gonna be happy. And we're like, all right, we won't forgive you for Paul, but
Your brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
is that what Polka Dot Man looks like? That's crazy. That's really funny. We need
No,
it,
no.
David. We need it.
It's an idea. I don't know if this is a
Oh,
thing.
okay.
But I'm like, I
Okay,
would love
that
to
would
see
be
that
funny,
just
though.
one big ass polka dot. Like it's like a big circle. Isn't that like a logo for it's almost like you're confusing him with one of the Authority characters at that point. But yeah, well, you said the word, John, so I had to hit you with one of those
Of course.
moments.
I don't
Of course.
expect anything less.
By the way, speaking of not expecting anything less, we're not expecting anything less than spectacular from this Sunday's Puppy Bowl. Because there's not only the Super
Yeah.
Bowl, but earlier in the day, because the Super Bowl kicks off at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, but earlier in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern time, you're gonna get the Puppy Bowl, which is gonna be broadcasting on Animal Planet. And I don't know if they're gonna have a simulcast on TBS and True TV, but those are all networks that are linked here. So you might be able to see it on the Discovery Channel, the Animal Planet, TBS, as well as True TV. And speaking of which, today James Gunn posted about it. He said Ozu the dog. I mean his dog, of course, that Crypto is based on. Ozu and James Gunn himself will be at the Puppy Bowl, and he's now invited us to check it out this weekend to see the talented pups compete for the Crypto Super Play Award. Of course, they're also going to try to raise awareness for more, dogs who are up for adoption. And of course, Ozu himself was a dog that that James Gunn he pretty much got from. Why am I forgetting right now? Like he was a shelter dog. He didn't. Words are escaping me right now, but
A rescue dog.
a rescue dog. God, it's been a long
Shelter
show.
dog fits
It's-
though. That also fits.
Yeah, there you go. So, thoughts on this? What are you expecting from the Puppy Bowl? Are you expecting anything beyond just
Expecting more fucking entertainment from that than the goddamn Super Bowl. I'll tell you that. Fucking more likable players. I will say that. Better than give me dogs over fucking eagles and racist caricatures any day of the week. I'm just kidding. I don't really give a fuck about the Chiefs.
I'm surprised that the Chiefs have still got their name, considering like the
It's like
Guardians
what
are-
like the
are,
Redskins,
that-
the poor
the Indians
Redskins
got changed to the Guardians, and
like the poor
um,
Redskins and the fucking Indians get all the shit, but the Chiefs get to fucking stay. Like that's not fair.
yeah,
Like especially when they do the fucking tomahawk chop thing, which is
right.
like racist as fuck.
Yes.
But like whatever. Like even though the Redskins, even though like multiple like Native American organizations were like, hey, we actually like the Redskins name, and also a Black Hawk fucking Native American designed the logo on the fucking helmet, and they're like, yeah, it was a proud reminder of our past. But no, the white people were like, no, this is offensive. And Native Americans were like, "What the fuck?" I think
By the
that
way,
was
Angelica in the chat, she's saying she watched Companion yesterday and The Dogman. They were both beautiful.
Yeah,
we
great
reviewed those
movies.
movies on the channel recently. I mean, John, you've seen Companion, right? Did you see Dogman?
Oh yeah, I did. We reviewed both.
Oh, I forget, but if you saw it or if it was just Liz was talking about it, but
No, yeah,
I
I
mean,
saw both. Great stuff.
both great movies. I mean, and we're glad that you enjoyed it, Angelica. So, Caleb, yeah, Eagles versus Chiefs. Who cares? LOL. Manos Time saying CinemaCon for DC will be on April 1st, and a new trailer and a new Supergirl first look. Can we be getting those at CinemaCon? Now, here's the thing about CinemaCon, Manos. So, and to everybody, I mean, look, CinemaCon is not the same as Comic-Con. So anything that they do at CinemaCon is going to be primarily for the people who are at CinemaCon. Most new releases at CinemaCon don't get released to the public. Like if they do a full screening for Superman, they're going to be like, please do not discuss this outside of here. Obviously, we will probably get some leaks, but whatever they show for footage, half the time, anything that's shown at CinemaCon, most of it is exclusive to the event. So unless you get somebody filming on a phone or something, you're not going to likely see that. So I still think that if we get another trailer, we're more likely to get it maybe around the NBA playoffs. You know, that would be the next big sporting event, or the All-Star weekend maybe, which is coming a little bit sooner. But then as far as what we're getting this Sunday, John, it does beg the question, given that this is happening earlier in the day and we're going to get a nice little preview, some extra new look at the Superman movie. Do you think it's going to be just like a little featurette, behind the scenes featurette, whether it is a little, piece of a scene maybe, or maybe an entire scene featuring crypto? Or do you think they will drop another full trailer this Sunday? Now that we're only a couple of days away, we know they're most likely not doing anything at the Super Bowl itself. What do you think we're going to actually get at this Puppy Bowl?
We're either going to get a slightly edited trailer that features more of crypto, or we're going to get a small, like 1 to 2 minute clip of crypto that is what, for the most part, what we've seen before, like him taking Superman home and him pulling on his cape, which, according to, what's the Jim Croce song, you're not supposed to do, but crypto's doing it. He's doing it, and he don't give a fuck.
By the way, you know what I think? I think that they're going to give us a sneak peek during the Puppy Bowl, which happens before the Super Bowl. So, it's happening in the afternoon. And then I think they're going to surprise us with either a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl, which, even though they said they won't, I think there's an outside chance. But even if they don't, maybe the full trailer drops during the Super Bowl. And then that becomes like a talking, thing. Although, if it's not featured in the Super Bowl and then they still drop it, why not just pay up for the Super Bowl commercial? But I'm thinking that we will get more than just the sneak peek during the Puppy Bowl tomorrow on Sunday. I don't know. There's just a part of me that wants to believe that there's going to be more than just a sneak peek at the Puppy Bowl. And like you said, we'll probably get something that's more crypto focused during the Puppy Bowl itself.
James Gunn takes off his mask. It's Zack Snyder the whole time.
Dun dun dun. That would be the ultimate troll move. I feel like they should do that as like an April 1st joke. Like April 1st, April Fool's Day, and James Gunn posts a video on his social media, and all of a sudden all the Zack Snyder fans see the same video on his Vero account. They're like, what is going on today? And it's just all of a sudden we bury the hatchet, as it were.
I'm the real director. And then for like a day, the IMDb and Wikipedia's like
everything gets
articles change.
Yeah.
And then it changes back.
Yep. By the way, great idea from Enterprising. Look, imagine if they were doing that, if they were like showing crypto and Superman playing catch on the moon. I feel like if there's any Superman movie that will be able to show us that and not look completely, fictionalized, you can believe it, it's going to be this Superman movie based on what we have seen so far. They're going to freaking kaiju in the movie, for heaven's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Figure Drawing saying Corn Sweat takes off his wonky eye face. It was Cavill the whole time. Duh, duh, duh. Another good one. Appreciate it. And Where the Cape saying is going to be a clip of them on the moon. It's possible. I just don't know if that was just for the image, like the promotional artwork, or if it's actually something that they're gonna do. I really don't know. Like I'm not really sure. Like I don't believe. I wouldn't mind seeing it. But I don't know if that's in the movie. But the fact that it was one of the images that we got when we got introduced to crypto. And remember, there was like a motion poster, so the Earth was spinning too. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Do you think we're actually gonna get Superman and crypto on the moon? That would be nice. Ezra Miller comes in, jump scares us all. Dude, I don't think I think it will scare Warner Brothers and DC if he did that. But Figure Drawing saying making Superman seem godlike OP is not easy. I'm rooting for James Gunn. Yes. I mean, he's still making Superman look pretty gosh darn relatable. So I appreciate that a lot as well. But yeah, I mean, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing whatever we get from the Puppy Bowl. Obviously, the Puppy Bowl itself, I hope if you guys are tuning in, that you enjoy the Puppy Bowl in addition to obviously looking out for that extra, feature inside look, if you want to call it that, at Superman, which I bet you they're going to hold on until the very end of the show. So if you plan on tuning in right at the beginning, just know they're most likely not giving that away right at the top. But if you are tuning in, then, appreciate it. Just enjoy all the puppy goodness, because that's what I'll be doing. And then, at the end of the show, you'll get rewarded for your patience by finally getting hopefully either another trailer, another inside look, or maybe just a scene from the movie. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Maybe we'll get another poster. That would be nice. So yeah. And it's Mochi's here in the chat. Hello, it's Mochi. You're saying I will enjoy that Puppy Bowl and I might get a dog. Yes. I bet a lot of people who will watch the Puppy Bowl will be convinced to get a pup of their own. Warner Brothers be like, you're invited. Yes, we are cordially invited. That's what James Gunn said with his post today. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's keep going. We have one more piece of news before we get into our main story. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. I saw this today and I thought it was really cool. So this is from James Gunn. He posted about it. He said there's an incredible new cover for Action Comics #1, the Golden Age size facsimile edition. Essentially, it's like an alternate variant cover of course, the original cover of Action Comics 1. It's drawn by the incredible Dan Mora. You can now get your copy coming to a local comic book store near you on April 18th. So it's not quite tomorrow, but it will be here soon. But here it is. I mean, I like it. This is essentially the same cover, except they replaced the Superman of old with the Superman that, suit that David Cornsweet is going to have. I don't know if that means we're going to get this exact scene in the movie. We probably are not. Of course, Tyler Hoechlin's Superman was the last one we got to see kind of replicate that in Superman and Lois in the very first episode of that show. And he was like, cool suit. Like the kid tells him, he's like, thanks, my mom made it for me, which was like, again, very wholesome, very Superman. Enterprising loves it. The artwork is great. And, if you guys are a fan of Superman comics, then make sure to keep an eye out for it, because this cover will be available on April 18th, and you can go and get one for yourself. Now, while John steps away for another second, we do have to dive into our main topic of the day. I know this is what you guys have been waiting for. So let's dive into it. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about, of course, we have to talk about Wonder Woman. There's a new Wonder Woman video game that's been in development now for a little bit. But recently, it looks like things have not been going very well. So reports were rampant all over the world. And the internet has been on fire about this today, so I wanted to get into it. Apparently, this Wonder Woman game has now been rebooted during development once, and it's already has cost Warner Brothers games over $100 million, and yet it's still years away from its release. Even if it, that is of course if it ever makes it to the market. So that's the headline. This is from a Bloomberg report, so everybody else then picked up on it to talk about it. Monolith, of course, is the game developer that's been working on this game. And according to this here from the article in Bloomberg, the game was rebooted and changed directors in early 2024 with a budget ballooning to more than $100 million. It's still years from release if it ever makes it to the market. So again, just, a lot of not so good, a lot of troubling signs for the game. I'm going to go into this a little bit here because this kind of gives us a little more context on this IGN article. Of course, Warner Brothers Games was recently sort of like reorganized as a new entity under Warner Brothers Discovery. And now it looks like, according to the report in Bloomberg from Jason Schreier, there's a lot of concern around this video game. I mean, and of course, this comes on the heels of Chief David Haddad leaving the studio. And Warner Brothers Games is pivoting, it looks like, to a new slate, which is going to be much more streamlined. And that was highlighted by David Zaslav in a recent business call, in a financial results call. But here's what it says in the article. I'm going to read it out real quick and let me know what you guys think about it. The company has had a troubled 12 months. That is, of course, Warner Brothers Games. Of course, they had a really bad, catastrophic release from Rocksteady, which was for the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. We all know how badly that went. Then, of course, the Smash Bros. Style game that came out, Multiverses, really underperformed. It didn't do nearly as well as people thought it would. And now, of course, as a result of that, Warner Brothers took a $200 million hit because of just the Suicide Squad game. And then they took another $100 million hit with the Multiverses game. Both of them just completely flopping and shitting the bed. Then Warner Brothers Games is now only recent release, the Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. It also pretty much flopped. So they've had like 3 big flops in a row. That's not good. That's not good for any company making content, regardless of whether it's a video game, a movie, or TV show. But like I said before, in a financial call, David Zaslav said, we recognize the games business is substantially underperforming its potential right now. So he's blaming it on the state of the business, not the fact that the games are terrible. But you let me know what you guys think about that. Speaking of which, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat, because I want to get your takes on this. Manos asking, did you manage to see Nicholas Holt's comments and Rachel's comments? It gets me excited. No, I didn't run across those. Like, if you know where those is coming from, let me know. I'll try to bring those into the show later on, if I can. But Figure Drawing saying this game was never destined to come out in the first place. I mean, hey, look, it's at this point $100 million into it. I feel like it's gonna be hard for them to just shutter it and just forget about it. I feel like when you're $100 million into a game development, you have to see it through, because you got to try to make some of it back, right? It's the same thing that happened with the Flash movie, because that Flash movie, they spent like $300 million making it almost, and they were like, it's too expensive. Like, they couldn't get a tax break on it the same way that they could on the Batgirl movie. So they were like, look, it's one thing that we take a movie that costs less than $100 million and shutter it and get most of that money back as a tax credit. You can't do that with the Flash. Similarly, you can't do that with this game. It's too big to fail. But Enterprising saying Superman Returns did something similar as well. And then Figure Drawing saying Dan Mora is so prolific, consistent, talented, down to earth. He's a legend in the making. You guys were talking about the cover earlier. I get it. Okay. All right. I'm going to move down the chat a little bit. I'm going to move down the chat to catch up with you guys. Figure Drawing saying this game was destined to never come out. I think I already read that. Caleb saying sad because Multiverses was fun and had potential. I mean, it was fun, but it just didn't sell well enough for them to make back clearly the $100 million more than that they had spent on the game. Figure Drawing also saying games these days can be more and more bloated. The latest Spider-Man game cost $350 million. Yeah, because you're trying to keep up with like these next generation consoles where there's so much detail, so much of the world that has to be created that it's expensive. It takes years to make it. It's like these games take longer than like an animated movie to make. And then once you have a product and you want to bring it into the real world, I mean, it becomes like a really high stakes play, and you either gotta, deliver, or you're gonna lose hundreds of millions of dollars. It's similar to like you said, the Flash movie flopping, and a lot of the DCEU movies on the back half of that slate flopping. Angelica asking, will they throw money and the ending won't continue either? I think you're trying to ask if they're gonna continue to throw money at it and not release it. As I said earlier, I don't think they can afford for this game to just disappear, because it's too expensive at this point for them to just give up on it. By the way, one thing that Zaslav did also say, David Zaslav that is, he mentioned that they're going to double down on just 4 game franchises: Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, and DC, and in quote, in particular, Batman. So there are rumors that they are working on a new single-player Batman game from, I think, Rocksteady. Is it Rocksteady, or I don't know which studio is it? It's the same one that made the Arkham games, but there is some movement on those games. Warner Brothers Montreal also has pitched a few ideas, but none of them have really been taken up, including a John Constantine game that they did not take on. The Flash game was scrapped right after the DC movie failed. The DCEU Flash, they say incorrectly here, the DCU Flash is the DCEU Flash. But now they're working on a pitch for a Game of Thrones video game. So you've got that there. The Hogwarts Legacy developer Avalanche is officially and now working on a sequel to that game. So there are a few things happening, but really ultimately when it comes down to it, John, the big news today was what's going on with basically the Wonder Woman game. And it looks like, according to Bloomberg, the game was reportedly rebooted in early 2024, and now it's cost them over $100 million, and it's still over, it's not anywhere close to release. Years from release, and it may never happen still. What are your thoughts on this, Sean? Do you think this is ever going to take off, or is this game doomed to fail?
I think this is kind of... it seems like it's DOA because it was. I remember reading a report that it was supposed to come out this year, and it's just like Wonder Woman deserves a lot of more respect than what she has gotten in like media outside of like the Timverse, because she hasn't really she did get that one animated movie that was pretty good. I mean, both her animated movies were pretty good, not great. And the Justice League cartoons obviously like goated. But yes, they did mention that this was going to be made. This is made by Monolith, I believe, which has done a lot of really great work in the past. But I don't know. It's just
like they're not making.
I will say the
They're
ideas they
hiring
had with like befriending
on
enemies and reimagining the Nemesis. That sounds like a really fucking great system, especially for someone like Diana, who's like all about, yes, she's a warrior, but she's also all about love and compassion, and that's what drives her. Because if she she's just an Amazon warrior, that's kind of boring. The fact that there's a reason during the Blackest Night storyline she became the beacon of love when needed to be, is because she has unlimited love for everyone in like the universe. That's what makes her character so inherently interesting. So, I don't want it to be DOA, and I would love to play a Wonder Woman game, but with all that's been going on, it's going to be like, what are we going to get first? The Batman Part 2 Beyond the Spider-Verse, or this? It's like,
I mean, look, they did. The CEO of the company just left, right? So there are a lot of changes happening at the executive level. So it looks like that's probably not going to help the situation. Anytime you see a change in leadership, that tends to change plans, especially in creative organizations such as Warner Brothers Games. But then you also have this question from Angelica, which I think is a good one. John, what do you think about the idea that this game essentially would have been potentially, if you go off of what James Gunn said, a part of the DCU continuity moving forward? Do you think it's a good idea still to like
video
have
games
game continuity be like the same as
games
movies and TV shows?
Video games are way too hard to incorporate because it takes way too long to make a game, and between the time it's been announced to when it comes out, the continuity is probably like beyond change. So you have to like, unless it's like made like in the distant past or like the distant future, there's no way that a video game unless you like do like a a Legion of Superheroes game, and it's technically in the DCU, but it's like we're never going to touch Legion of Superheroes, but it takes place in the far future, so they can't fuck up that continuity. So that's the only thing I can imagine that they would do. But even then, I think they should keep video game shit separate because it's just way too difficult to figure out. So, I think try to stick with just like movies, TV, maybe books. Like if people really want books, do that. But I can't imagine that they would do something like that.
I mean, Star Wars tried to say like everything is canon, but they quickly pivoted because it's too hard to keep everything together. Essentially, like they were like everything is canon under Disney, but then they quickly changed their mind about it. So yeah, I mean, Kavari's hearing that there's a former EA game executive who's in talks to take over Warner Brothers games, so that could be an interesting move. I mean, EA is not necessarily they're probably one of the most hated organizations in video game world. So I don't know if that's such a good idea. Of course, a business decision could be a good one, because if it's an executive who has done well financially, then maybe he could steer the ship in the right direction. So we'll have to see if that ends up being a good move or not. But Figure Drawing saying, imagine a Wonder Woman game that is basically akin to the OG God of War games. That type of game wouldn't require a massive budget. I think that's a good idea. I actually agree with that. I really, really do. Nico saying they should just outsource and license the game to a third-party developers and publishers. So just stick your logo on it, and that's about it. I think right now they are licensing to other publishers, but then they're still developers, but Warner Brothers Games still publishes the games. So yeah, I mean, and what you're suggesting is essentially kind of like outsource both aspects of that. So there's that. I mean, Fiona was saying she would play a Wonder Woman game. A lot of people would. I think this would have been a really popular game potentially. So I don't know. It's not in good shape, John. It's not in good shape. Change the World saying Gunn is trying to stick to his word about connecting the universe through all media. I really believe this game is going to be the first adaptation of Wonder Woman in the DCU.
I don't think that's the case. I don't even think this is fucking going to come out now. Like, it doesn't seem like that'll be the case. So
I still don't think they give up on this. Like, that's a lot of money to invest in a game, $100 million to then, you can't just take another write down. I mean, they've already taken a $300 million write down between the Multiverses game and the Suicide Squad game. It's like there's just too much money being lost here. I mean, they're trying to make money, not lose money, right? So Kavari saying Warner Brothers has 12 studios. Why would they outsource? They need better leadership. Well, they recently sort of merged a lot of those together, right? So now it's like one big entity, and then they're licensing out to other developers, but they are publishing them in-house. I think that's the intent. But yeah, like you said, Enterprising, if that EA executive oversaw some good games that are in the same realm as you want to maybe call it, the same genre as the Wonder Woman game, then maybe that would be a good pick. Also, maybe like the Hogwarts game, like he would have, whoever this executive is, he, she, or it, like they need to have experience with the kind of games that Warner Brothers wants to focus on now, which includes Hogwarts, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, DC, especially Batman. Fiona saying, imagine a Baldur's Gate 3 style Wonder Woman game. Oh wait,
yeah.
No, I think that was a little bit of a joke, but yeah, I mean, John, do you think this game, if it does come out, like we're now kind of pushing it back by another like 4 or 5 years, or because it looks like they're completely redoing the whole thing. They rebooted it. They're even trying to change the system that the game is predicated on.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Like the whole, like, do you think they've started from scratch? Does that mean that this game is going to take even more time to come out?
Well,
like,
I mean, they did say they were
from scratch.
Okay, here's the thing. They did say they were abandoning a very complicated system of like befriending enemies, or like becoming more, not a villainous Wonder Woman, but like going down the stark path of like a warrior, or like the more love inclined version, like a good versus not so good. And they wanted a more traditional action adventure style, which kind of stinks. But like, if they're putting all their attention into like the combat and stuff, then we'll at the very least get some great combat and maybe less story. But I just hope it's good. I hope it comes out, and I hope it's good. That's like the main thing of that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, a Paradise Lost game. I mean, I guess maybe this could connect to Paradise Lost if it's part of the DCU. A Lanterns game would be nice. Maybe it could be like the Star Wars Battlefront games almost, where you can kind of like be in space and in the cosmos. I wouldn't mind that necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kavari again, kind of agreeing with me in that this is a creative shift. They're not canceling this thing. They won't scrap it. I mean, they're too invested in this game already. So it would make sense if they just try to change, like you said, they're changing directions. Caleb saying ambush bug game where you travel across different DC continuities. That would be nice. It would be expensive, but nice. Enterprising saying, I want Wonder Woman's Arkham City, man. I want to see her fight Ares and his kids, Hades, Medusa, the firstborn, Cheetah. That'd be cool. Maybe we do. Maybe they should do another DC versus Mortal Kombat game. That would be nice. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I don't think they're gonna scrap it. That was like, it's just I feel like it might be one of those things where it's like perpetually in development hell kind of things.
Yeah.
And it'll eventually get released. I can't imagine it getting. When was it announced? That's what I'm curious about.
Somebody let us know in the chat? I believe this was announced like around the time James Gunn took over, right? Isn't that
So
the
if that's
reason
like
why
2
released this
years
next
and it
year?
was supposed to come out this
Yeah.
year, I can imagine I could maybe seeing it coming out like 2028, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
seems like about that time.
I mean, and by the way, great point from Change the World. The fact that they are abandoning the concept of like this, story that can go in a million different directions to something that's a little more traditional and linear, that could make it a little bit more easy, like a little bit easier rather, to tie into a DCU story. Like, because the story of the game could then become canon to the Wonder Woman character in the DCU, like, which would be, like you're not gonna get all these different permutations anymore. It could be something where if you play the game all the way through, or you just watch the cutscene movies, that could be all you need to do to keep up with what's going on with the Wonder Woman character, and that could be then adapted to live action. Like, you could then see the next story from Wonder Woman as a live action movie potentially, or maybe she shows up in a TV show. But I mean, John, do you think that it makes it more conducive to being a part of the DCU with a linear story, or do you think this has nothing to do with it being a part of the DCU or not?
I don't think it shouldn't be part of the DCU because I just think video games are just way harder to develop at like specific things. It's not like you're just making a story. You're making combat, you're making like environments, you're making like it's not just the story aspect. And the thing is, when you're pumping out like 2 or 3 movies a year, the continuity is going to be forever changing. And when it's announced, sure, they're going to be closely tied to it, but it's like you're going to be like constantly changing shit. Like, oh, we got to change this thing. And the thing is, video games don't have a ton of like leg room to like change shit on the fly. Because if you got to change one thing, you got to change half the fucking game. Like that's like it's like a domino effect. It's just gonna get like bigger and bigger. So then that's why they like, I'm sure that they went down this system, this nemesis system of befriending enemies, like they mentioned before, and it just went like this snowball effect, this domino effect of like, oh, gotta keep going, and then it just became like unplayable, and they couldn't figure it out. So like, okay, we got to scrap everything now. So that's what I think I think. So when you're including the development of video games into a movie universe, it just doesn't work. Now, it would be cool if they did their own video game universe, like maybe not make it part of the Arkham verse because that's forever tainted now thanks to Kill the Justice League. I think like Wonder Woman should maybe create like a parallel like universe of like, okay, we're having these DCU games and but they're not part of the DCU technically. They're just part of their own little universe that's like contingent to it. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you on that take. It's gonna be hard to make everything connect back to the DCU timeline. But hey, it looks like they're reshuffling the decks over at Warner Brothers Games, and one of the big ones is Wonder Woman. They've tried to simplify it. When are we gonna get this game? Nobody knows just yet. But the fact that they're working on some other franchises, including of course that new Batman video game, that has me excited. I want to see another Batman game, especially because I think it's coming from the same studio that made the Arkham game. So that would be fantastic. Caleb is saying the Arkham verse is dead, so let's not defile that. Well, they may have other plans. So yeah, and then Enterprising saying if Bethesda, the studio can make an Indiana Jones game set between Temple of Doom and Crusade, Warner Brothers can figure out a canon Wonder Woman game. I'm sure they can. It's difficult, but I'm sure they can figure it out. Change the World saying the thing is the DCU is so desperate to separate themselves from the DCEU, making a video game part of the continuity is rich, but still fresh. Or I don't know if you especially for Wonder Woman, where a movie for her now wouldn't work. and at least their opinion.
It's different when it's like comic books and comic book continuities. The contingent of that into other forms of media are way more complicated than a franchise that has 5 movies and a TV show. That's one straight timeline of fucking like it's like Young Indiana Jones Adventures, Raiders, Temple, Great Circle, Last Crusade, Kingdom, Dial of Destiny. One straight timeline. Yeah, Superman, lanterns, this. It's like a fucking wibbly wobbly, spacey, wacy, timey, wimey of bullshit. It's like a Jeremy Bearimy of shit. And that's what comic book continuity is. It's beyond fucked. So Indiana Jones is not really a like common thread to really like do that. It's not a comparison because that's just like a timeline. This is like a jagged sort of.
It's more expansive. That's for sure. Right. By the way, Change the World saying Temple is actually a prequel. So there you go.
There you go.
Still,
so
the point stands. Still, the point stands. And yeah, Kavari, the engine, it looks like they didn't update it and they didn't want to do the work. They want to simplify things. Hopefully that will mean that we'll get this game sooner than later. But hey, the story as it goes, they are reworking it and they've spent too much money for it to fail at this point. So I hope that we get it sooner than later. As far as the new Batman game, and Caleb was like, well, when Harley shot Batman in that Suicide Squad game, he knew one of his favorite franchises was dead. They did later do a correction for the end of that game, which we covered, I think, a few weeks ago, that the Batman that got killed in Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is not
a clone.
the Arkham Batman. It was a clone. So there you go. So that's probably how we get that new Batman video game that is in development. But hey, with that, I think we're going to call it a night. Call it a day wherever you're watching, in whichever time zone.
Yeah, it didn't actually go into the next day. Crazy.
We're getting close. But yes, Caleb, like we just said, it was a clone twist. There was a twist to it. And Angelica saying, I hope they make the game. They should only sell the cheap ones. I can't afford the ones that are too expensive. Well, I mean, all console games now are like $60 to start. So, but they do have a few mobile games that are in development, which are doing well for Warner Brothers. So maybe you can check those out in the meantime. But you can also hit the like button, as John just told you to do in the meantime. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button if you're new. If you are new, then just know that we are here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday with DCU Daily. We usually also cover the latest news in Hollywood. We have those quick hits, of course. And then once a week, we do MCU Weekly. And then also we review some movies like Love Hurts. We're going to review that next week with Liz and John. That's going to be part of the Also Curious Times DCU Daily show. But DCU Daily, that's the constant here, that we are here 5 days a week. So hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And of course, if you are watching, then hit the like button. If you're watching after the fact, if you're not watching us live, then get in the comments down below and let us know what you thought about all the stories that we covered today. We are excited for the Puppy Bowl. The Super Bowl is only a couple of days away. I'm so excited to talk about on Monday the new sneak peek that we get at the Superman movie. Just how extensive it's going to be, and is it going to be more crypto stuff, or is it going to be a whole new trailer? Let's find out all together, and then we'll be here on Monday to talk about it.
All together now.
All together now. Let's look up.
Take us home.